all our resources at this back in the newsroom and live on scene. Kathy Marshall joining us now. Give us an update. I know Portland police have been tweeting and information has been coming into our newsroom, Kathy.
Yeah, the focus right now really, Brenda, is for parents who would hear this and be alarmed and certainly want to get to their students. And natural instinct might be to go to the high school there on Northeast Shaver Road, but police are saying do not do that. Instead, go to 122nd and Sandy, where there's a large Kmart parking lot, and they intend to bus students over. We are now looking at video from the scene right now. Bus students over from the school and to that area to be reunited with parents. This is a live picture from outside of Parkrose High School, and we're just kind of taking this in. You know, it's all started just a short time ago when there was a report of someone with a gun being spotted near the school. You see Portland police responding there. Looks like they have an area blocked off. They have taken a suspect into custody. The most important piece of news here, a suspect is in custody. No reports of injuries at this point. We confirmed that with AMR, the ambulance service who would respond to this area at Parkrose High School. The school, as far as we know, is still in lockdown, as is the middle school, which is across the street from the high school. So several hundred students in lockdown at the school, but they have set up that reunification area at the Kmart at 122nd and Sandy once they do begin moving the students. You see traffic in the area impacted by this. Our photographer, Eric Patterson, is who is providing this shot for us at the high school. So Eric, can you give us a sense of what's going on out there?
Hi guys, it still looks like a bit of confusion out here. People are on cell phones trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out maybe where their students are, and a lot of police presence obviously, and along with Portland police, some federal police are here as well.
Yeah, Eric, and we just saw a tweet from Parkrose High School, you know, urging parents not to come to the school, that there's just too much going on there right now, and that the students are safe. Again, Parkrose High School reporting students are safe and in lockdown as they are at the middle school. You see curious neighbors there looking out saying, boy, what's going on here? All this police activity in the neighborhood. Looks like some traffic being diverted there, Eric, or is that just a slowdown from the police presence?
Yeah, some people are being let through, others are being turned around, so I'm not sure what their connection is, but you can see buses all lined up, ready to get some folks out. And yeah, I think they're still trying to figure things out here.
Well, yeah, the presence of those buses, Eric, would indicate that they are ready to transport the students to that reunification area at the Kmart nearby. And, you know, that was a very quick response there in terms of getting the buses out. Have you seen any students at all, Eric, trying to, you know, come and go from the school, because it is in lockdown, so I assume that there's no activity as far as folks going in and out?
No, no students, just what appear to be parents and any of their caretakers, perhaps.
No, Eric, I want to bring this piece of information that we just got, telling that officers, when they arrived there on the scene and determined that a Parkrose High School staff member, well, they had wrestled the suspect to the ground. This is some new information that we're getting in. So I will repeat, officers arrived and then determined that a Parkrose High School staff member had wrestled the suspect to the ground. No indication, any other shooters or any injuries, and police have not yet determined what, if any, rounds were fired. But again, a staff member having to wrestle this person with the gun to the ground. We do not know if this happened inside the school or outside the school, because the original reports we had were that someone with a gun was seen near Parkrose High School. We have not confirmed yet, though, if the person with the gun made it into the school, but we are hearing that it was a staff member who wrestled this person to the ground. KGW reporter Morgan Romero has arrived there at Parkrose High School as well. And Morgan, what can you tell us about, you know, the atmosphere around there? I see probably what is an anxious parent right behind you there, standing at a van.
Yeah. When we pulled into this parking lot, I saw one woman on the phone, tears streaming down her face. You can see a number of parents here in the parking lot right here talking to Portland police. I've seen Portland police officers. I've seen Gresham police officers here as well. A number of cars, parents just waiting for information. We were actually told to stay away from where parents are talking to police officers right now so they can get all the information that they need. We'll talk to them here shortly in just a moment if we're able to, though, Kathy.
Yeah, Morgan, you know, there is some confusion, parents showing up there, and absolutely you would want to do that. You'd want to get to the school where your child is in lockdown. But again, Portland police are asking parents to go to this Kmart at 122nd and Sandy. Are they aware of that? Can you tell at this point, Morgan?
Well, all I know is what we saw on Twitter from the Portland Police Bureau, kind of telling people first the football stadium and now here. And it's not a Kmart, it's a Sears outlet. So it's an abandoned Sears outlet store. And this is where all of the parents, it appears, are coming. There's some children here as well. And there's a Portland Police Bureau officer here standing right next to me. It does appear as though more parents are trickling in, getting out of their cars, trying to find out what's going on and how they can get to their students.
Oh, apologies there, Morgan. I thought you were at the high school. So just to clarify, you are at this area where they're trying to reunite parents and students.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they're trying to get the word out there. Parents come here to this Sears outlet to come get information. And it sounds like pick up your children as well. But of course, they're still in the school on lockdown. So not entirely sure when that reunification process will happen.
Yeah. And again, that is at 122nd and Sandy. Is that what I'm understanding, Morgan? Is that where you're at? 122nd and Sandy. It does look like they have a large area for this whole reunification process to take place. And Morgan, I'll let you go talk to some parents. We did see those buses lined up there at Parkrose High School, so it would lead us to believe that there will be some students coming out at some point, boarding those buses, and then being taken a short distance over to this parking lot to be reunited. I mean, incredible, Morgan, the response there that we're already seeing the number of parents showing up, and you have to wonder if students from inside the school are communicating with them. And so, you know, I do want to give you an opportunity to go and find out what they're hearing about what's happening within the school.
Yeah, and I'll go talk to those parents. I'll go talk to police officers who you can see here in the parking lot talking to a number of parents, and I'll find out what information they're giving them. I'll be, of course, sure to bring that to you as soon as I find out.
All right, yes, that sounds good, Morgan. Maybe you could effort that right now. We'll continue to look at the shot here of the parents just waiting in that parking lot, kind of go over what has happened here if you're just joining us. Just within the hour, we had that tweet from Portland Police that someone with a gun was spotted near Parkrose High School. Then a short time later, I would say within the half hour, we received the tweet that the suspect is in custody, and the tweet went on to say at this point, no indication of anyone injured or any other suspects. Police will be searching the school to ensure everyone is safe, and it is our understanding that that is what is going on right now, that while police search the school and ensure the safety of all students, parents are being asked to come to this parking lot. We had earlier said it was a Kmart. Now, Morgan points out that it was the Sears outlet parking lot, a large area there that it can accommodate this process of getting the students back together with their parents. The students will be put on buses that we saw outside of Parkrose High School and driven to this area where they will be reunited with parents. But already, and you see in this live picture, so many parents arriving there, anxious, of course, to hear more about what happened. There are Portland police officers on scene to give them information about what's going on, perhaps when the students might be transported. You see right there some parents getting the information right now from Portland police, and you get the feeling like they are not going anywhere until they see their loved one come off a bus and into this parking lot. We do point out here the really good news is that no one was injured. We do not know if any shots were ever fired. Portland police still working to confirm that one way or another. We have confirmed through Portland police They were told when they arrived on scene that it was a Parkrose High School staff member who wrestled the person with the gun to the ground. Again, not sure if that happened within the school or outside the school, but it was a Parkrose High School staff member who stepped up, brought this person to the ground, and really made a heroic effort there to make this a much better situation than it would have been had that person with the gun carried out what they showed up intending to do. Again, the suspect, we don't know whether it is a high school student, whether it is an adult. We do know that police have a suspect in custody and no injuries there. We reached out to AMR, the ambulance service that would respond to such a situation, and they said they had not been called to the scene. You do see a number of officers there. We saw earlier from Parkrose High School the traffic around there on Northeast Shaver Road definitely impacted by this. And we need to bring in the middle school as well, because the middle school located right within that same area also on lockdown. Once this person with a gun was spotted in the area, both schools went on lockdown. That was probably within the hour that this all started. And then within a short time, the reports coming in from Portland police that indeed a suspect was in custody and no reports of any injuries. And then the sweep began to go through each of those schools to make sure everyone is safe. Very quickly, we did see the buses there come to Parkrose High School in a very long line. Those buses will be transporting the students here to where you're looking at 122nd and Sandy, where those anxious parents are awaiting any word on when their students might arrive there. Again, there was some confusion earlier because parents were at first instructed to go to the high school football stadium. Portland police quickly changed that and said parents do not try to come to either the middle school or the high school. Instead, go to this large parking lot at the Sears outlet at 122nd and Sandy. Again, they're really urging parents, please do not come to the high school itself, because you see traffic in that area has already been impacted. We do have several crews. We heard from Morgan Romero. I know Chris Willis is on his way out there as well. Photographer Eric Patterson is on scene and bringing us this shot from the high school, where you see that heavy police presence there right now as they work to determine exactly what unfolded here, because there's not been a whole lot of detail as to what brought this all on, the lockdowns. It was the reports of someone with a gun in the area of Parkrose High School, and then we were later to learn that it was a staff member who wrestled someone with a gun to the ground, appears anyway at this point, averting any trouble at either the middle school or the high school. They're in close proximity to each other, the reason they both went on lockdown. And now we have this long process of ensuring that each of those buildings is safe before they release any students to board buses and be taken to that reunification area where so many parents are already showing up. I'm told Chris Willis has arrived there on scene. We see him coming into the picture right there, and he's getting into position for us and maybe can give us some more insight into what's happening right there at Parkrose High School. Chris, are you able to hear me yet?
I am. Can you hear me? We just literally put up a signal here. Are you with us?
Yep, we can hear you, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay, you can see we're just outside of the school here, and we've talking to one of the parents here, and we have good news. You spoke to your daughter inside, right?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
She said she's okay. She saw the shooter. She's very, very scared. Yeah. She was frantic. She's crying.
What year in school is she?
She's a junior.
She's a junior. She actually saw the shooter, right?
She did. She had to run to a nearby house. I don't know exactly what happened, but she basically was running, and somebody let her in their house. Yeah.
She told you that it appears nobody was hurt or nobody hit. I mean,
that's what she said, that nobody, as far as she saw, got hurt or anything like that.
Yeah, Kara, how relieved were you when your daughter called?
I'm very relieved. I just talked to her. Yeah.
You had tears coming down when I first met you, and it's got to be a huge relief, right?
It is. It is. Yeah.
Not something you expect at Parkrose.
Or
at any school.
Not at all. You never think it's going to happen to you. You never do. Or, it shouldn't happen at all, but it does.
Have they talked to you about reunification and when you can see your daughter and the students?
Yeah, we're supposed to meet at the Kmart. They're interviewing all the students, or some of the students right now.
Have they given you a time frame? They're going to interview them. Is your daughter going to be one of those that's interviewed?
She is. She just told me she's going to be interviewed now. Yeah.
Did she describe what it was like? Was it chaos inside?
It was chaos. She was very, very, very scared. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to let you get back over and wait. Thanks so much for your time. And again, we're glad that your daughter's safe. Okay, that is the latest. And again, we just arrived here. I'm going to step out of the way and let Devin get some shots here. You can see police have this area blocked off. This is Shaver 4000 block. And the school right over beyond the fence there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count about a half a dozen police cars here on this street. People are leaving and being allowed to leave, but nobody being allowed in. And Devin, if you go over to the right there a little bit on the corner, you can see these are nervous parents. This is where we met Kara there. Parents are just waiting to see. You can see these two right now talking about Kmart, where the reunification is going to happen. Students are going to be released, and parents meeting them over at the local Kmart. Word getting around, right? And is that how you found out about it? Just
my daughter. I just find out from my daughter. She's in the school already.
She's inside.
Yeah, she's inside.
And she's okay.
Yeah, she's okay. Finally she's okay. So she texts me. She's gonna be in the Kmart.
Okay. So
it's pretty sad, it happened here in Oregon. It's horrible. So, we don't have any tragedies like that, so hopefully everybody okay.
Yeah, and at least she's safe, and that's kind of how everybody's getting information, right? Spreading, hey, we're getting
kids,
to Kmart.
For Kmart. So everybody, so the parents, if they want to find out, they have to go Kmart to pick out the kids and all that.
Well, relief. Thanks for talking to us.
No
Okay, and you can see that's how a lot of parents are getting the information here, just word of mouth and being told, hey, some of the kids are being interviewed right now. We spoke to Kara, who had gotten a call from her daughter inside the school, reportedly saw the person with the gun, and first told her mother that she is okay, and then quickly said they're going to be interviewed as well and then released. So we believe her daughter is going to be interviewed by police, which probably most of the students are at this point, and then they'll be reunited with their parents over at that location at the Kmart. Again, though, but over on the right, you can see, Devin, parents lining the block, a lot of them on their phones, a lot of them trying to get information, spreading information with each other and sharing it, because obviously a hugely tense situation out here. And again, we've been here, just arrived, and are still gathering information. So we'll continue to gather information, talk to parents and police, and let you know when we have any updates. So for now, we'll send it back to you.
Chris, but before you go, I'm just curious, when you talked to Kara, the mom who had heard from her daughter, I got the impression from her remarks that her daughter was inside the school. At this point, we haven't determined whether the person with the gun made it into the school, but from what she's saying, it sounds like that did happen.
Just repeat that last part for me. We haven't determined what?
Haven't determined whether the person with the gun made it into the school, but from what her daughter said, it sounded like what she witnessed was inside the school.
Exactly. Now, and again, that was talking to Kara there, and she had spoken to her daughter. We have also heard reports that it was on the tennis courts. And actually, I will ask Kara when I go over there. But again, she did not give the impression that she was inside the school. She said she had seen the person with the gun. And so again, yeah, we'll determine whether or not that was done on the tennis courts. Again, there have been some of those reports as well, and we'll confirm those for you. But at this point, it sounded like Kara's daughter was inside the school and saw the person with the gun on the outside. But I'll go over and talk and see if I can confirm that for you.
All right, Chris, thank you. Again, the original report coming in that officers were reporting someone with a gun was seen in the area of Parkrose High School. That brought about this huge police presence there. And then a short while later, we got the report via Twitter that a suspect was in custody, that nobody had been injured, both schools remaining in lockdown, Parkrose High School and the nearby middle school, as police interview folks who might have witnessed something and also ensure that everyone is safe. But at this point, no injuries, no determination yet if any shots were actually fired. But this report has also been put out by Portland police that it was a staff member who wrestled a person with the gun to the ground. you know, very much putting an end to what it was a very, very scary situation for students and anyone who came across this. Morgan Romero is at the scene where parents are set to be reunited with their students who will be brought by bus once the lockdown is lifted there to 122nd and Sandy. Morgan?
Yeah, Kathy, this is an old Sears outlet, abandoned right now, but it's got a big parking lot, and there's a lot of parents here right now. One of them, Marcy Esselman, you have a freshman at Parkrose High School. He's been texting you.
A little bit, yes. He was able to reach out through using someone else's phone.
What is he saying?
He just said he doesn't, that there was a shooter and that they're still in lockdown and he doesn't know when they're going to get out.
What information have you received aside from him?
Actually, the only information I've received is from my sister who lives in Vancouver. She contacted me when I was on lunch and asked me if I was going to pick my son up, and I had no idea why. So I called her, and she said that she just saw on the news that there was a shooter in the area and that kids were going to be released and picked up in either the football field or Kmart, and that's all she could tell me.
You didn't get a phone call, text, email, nothing?
I have not received anything on my phone at all. I tried calling the school, no answer, and so I just headed over this way so I could try to figure out what was going on.
How did you know to come here?
My sister called me from Vancouver again and said they updated the news and said they're going to be at the Kmart parking lot.
Marcy, what's going through your head right now? I can't even imagine.
It's quite emotional. I mean, even though my son said he's safe, it's just, you know, it's just the horror that it just doesn't stop, you know, and it just hits close to home. You feel for every parent, no matter where they're at. And so just, you know, it just is very emotional. I just don't know. It just comes right up. You feel bad for everybody and scared because it's your child.
The fact that he's okay, is it reassuring? I mean, obviously still in lockdown, though.
It's reassuring, but until I get the chance to see him, you know, the relief is temporary until, you know, I'm just waiting to see what's going to roll out. You know, mentally, I don't know how that affects a kid to be put into the situation. You know, I didn't grow up like that, so it's difficult.
When you say you didn't grow up like that, you didn't have to worry about this happening in your school.
I did not. And now it's just so common, you know, and we've spoke about it before, but to have information come from a distance, you know, from my sister, I'm thankful that she contacted me. I feel out of sorts to have not known what to do and would not have known about it had she not called me, at least up until this point.
Did you have to get off work to be able to come here?
I did. I left work. I work around the corner. I just said I'm out and something's going on at school. Yeah.
You're just going to hang out and wait, and you're expecting them to come by bus to here for the reunification?
Yes, that's what we're told, is that they will be bussed over when they're released. I see they're starting to set up some tables. I assume that they're going to check them all in, and you know, I'm curious on how other parents are feeling when they're so far away, because there's a lot of kids in the school, and there's not as many cars here that are, you know, to cover that many kids, and so it's just got to be horrible. And luckily I'm close by, but I'll feel better when I get a chance to see him.
Soon. How old is he, 14?
He's 15, yes, 15.
Well, we'll touch base with you. I know you probably want to get back to your phone to see what's going on, but thank you. Thank you for your time. And we'll, of course, stay here and bring you guys all of the latest. It does appear, I'm going to have Ken pan off and show you that command center. They got this up really quickly. They started getting these tables and tents up about 10 minutes ago. You can see Waters over there. I believe Portland Police Bureau response, as well as maybe some other community partners and other agencies that are getting this established for parents and children when that reunification does happen. Again, this is the location for parents to come retrieve their children when they are bussed out of Parkrose High School and no longer on lockdown. No word yet on when that will happen. For now, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Morgan, thank you. We continue to watch as all those parents show up there, and you know, you remarking how quickly they set up that command center. We noted as well how quickly the buses arrived outside of Parkrose High School to eventually transport these hundreds of students to be reunited with their parents there. Not only the high school in lockdown, but also the nearby middle school. This all starting about an hour ago when someone with a gun was spotted in the area of Parkrose High School. So we're looking at an image from Sky 8 right now, live there, as we continue our breaking news coverage from Parkrose High School and the nearby middle school. You can see virtually no activity around the high school as it remains in lockdown. We're hearing from parents who are getting texts and calls from students inside the building there that police are interviewing some students who may have encountered this person with a gun. Just about an hour ago, this all starting, and then very quickly, within a half hour, we got a report that a suspect is in custody and that police had determined that there were no injuries there on scene. But still so much to deal with here as police continue their investigation and then this long reunification process with parents, because with the school in lockdown right now, nobody moving anywhere, although many parents arriving at nearby 122nd and Sandy, hoping to be reunited soon, but this is looking like it will take some time as the school is still in lockdown. You see the strong police presence still at the school and in the neighborhood. KGW's Kyle Aboshi is joining us now. And Kyle, where are you positioned?
Brenda, we're on the southwest corner of the campus. A few parents have gathered here, including Jessica Diaz. You've got 2 daughters at the school?
Hysterical, telling me that there was a shooter at the school and to come get them. And she was notified by her twin, who was in the class, to come get out of school, go to the office and get out. And Cassie saw that they were shutting down windows and locking doors and said, I'm out, and left the school. And she asked where her sister was, and she was like, just get out, I'm out. And Felicia didn't wait. She saw the butt of the gun and she left. And at that moment, Felicia said that they tackled the shooter. So I'm thankful that they were both alive, but for a split second that I couldn't get a hold of Felicia. And all I could hear was Cassie screaming, come get us, there's a shooter. And Felicia just left everything. So all her belongings are in there. The police are questioning her. They won't let her, they let her come and hug me so we can say that we loved each other. And I'm thankful that she ran and didn't stay. And then she said that she couldn't leave though because they had to question her some more. And so I'm just waiting. I have her sister, who was on the other side of 122nd and Shaver, waiting for me as I'm flying down the road to come get her. And luckily everybody at my work was just like, get out. And I ran and I drove as fast as I could to get my kids. And I couldn't find Felicia because I didn't know where the tennis courts were, because like they're basketball and volleyball players, and she just said, come to the side of the school, keep coming down Shaver. And so I did. And thank God Cassie knows where these things are, because I didn't even know which way to go, because I'm like coming through the parking lots and officers are trying, you see them coming in at groups, SWATs going into the school, and I'm just panicking looking for my child. And I have random numbers calling me because she didn't have her phone anymore. She just left everything and ran. And so finally she called me from an officer's number and said, I'm over here, Mom, I'm safe. They're not letting me go. I can't leave yet. I got to talk to the police officers. But after a few minutes, I was just like, can I see you? Where are you? Step into the middle of the road. And I'm standing right here, like waving down, and she's down. She like stepped out and waved at me. And then a few minutes later, they let her come up and hug me. And then she ran up and hugged her twin, and they sat there and cried for about 5 minutes. And then Felicia was like, I got to go back and talk to them. So she went back down there. And I'm just proud of them for running and not staying.
It must be a tremendous relief to you that no one was injured, including your 2 daughters.
Yeah, it's very scary. They're seniors. This is it. Like, I don't know how they're going to go back to school and finish the year. They have a little sister who's 6, and we have all those years ahead of her. And this is happening so often now. And now it's at home. It's in our home. He came inside of our home. And I'm scared for them for the rest of the year, and I'm scared for every year upcoming for the baby. And I just don't know what to do from here. I don't know where to go from here as far as their education, and I'm scared to death.
Well, again, we're glad your daughters are okay. We're glad that other students and staff are okay in light of the situation.
Thank God for the security, and even just like the fact that my children had cell phones and they were able to connect in this extreme crisis moment, to have that communication where she was like, my twin is in here, I gotta call her and get her out, was everything. Cassie had no clue that this was happening. And if it wasn't for the fact that Felicia was like, get out, she would have been in the school like, la, la, la. And who knows what would have happened if they weren't on it as well as they were. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so thankful that they're okay.
As are we. Jessica Diaz, thanks so much for talking to us. We appreciate it. Certainly glad that her children are okay, along with the other students here at Parkrose High School. As police had reported out earlier in a press release and a tweet, suggesting that it was actually a staff member here at Parkrose High School that tackled the suspect. In the end, no injuries, but for many parents with students here, obviously a very frightening situation, and now many of them struggling to reunite with their children after hearing this news. You know, this mother also makes an interesting point, Brenda, as far as technology and communications these days. With so many students having cell phones, it makes that communication with their parents and their loved ones critical in times like this, where they can communicate and say, I'm okay, and also where we can meet in situations like this unfolding before their very eyes. Brenda?
Thank you. Kathy Marshall back in studio here, and I just want to bring you up to date here on new information that we have coming in. We're told that police will hold a briefing in about 30 minutes at 1:30 to update us on this situation at Parkrose High School and Parkrose Middle School. Kyle talking there about how many students are impacted and parents by this. The enrollment there at Parkrose is in the 970 range, 970 students, an additional 750 students in 6th to 8th grade at Parkrose Middle School. So we're talking upwards of 1,700 students impacted, and then you add in their parents, their anxious parents who have rushed out here hoping to be reunited very soon at 122nd and Sandy. It's been described to us as a huge parking lot. Used to be for a Sears outlet. Others have said it's a Kmart parking lot, but again, if you need to head there, it's 122nd and Sandy. Now, to back up here, to give you some perspective on how this all started and the timeline. It was just about an hour ago, just before noontime, when we received the initial report that Portland police had reports of a person with a gun in the area of Parkrose High School. We have since heard that police are crediting a Parkrose High School staff member with wrestling that person to the ground. We're told no one is injured, and police have been sweeping through the building, ensuring that everyone is safe before they transport them to the reunification area. Police also doing interviews. We've heard from parents who said their children witnessed what had happened. One saying she saw the staff member wrestle the person with the gun to the ground. Another saying, my child saw the butt of the gun. We've also had reports that perhaps the person with the gun was spotted in the area of the tennis courts of the high school. This is a large area, as we see in this shot from Sky 8 over Parkrose High School. Both these schools, the middle school and the high school, are on Northeast Shaver in very close proximity. Therefore, they both went into lockdown when this initial report came in of a person with a gun in the area. KGW's Morgan Romero was very quickly on scene there, to the point at which parents hope to be reunited soon with their students. And I know, Morgan, you've been talking to parents who have been getting texts, maybe phone calls from students inside classrooms. What kind of things have you been hearing?
Well, Kathy, Sonia Canseco is one of those. She's not a parent, but she is a sister. She has a 12-year-old sister inside Parkrose Middle School right now. Your sister is texting you, I assume calling you really at the moment? No, someone else? Okay. What is she saying?
My little sister, she's just scared. She's just texting me that she's really scared and that she already wants to come home. But I guess that they have her safe right now, that they're in the classroom and they don't know what's going to happen. So she just texted me like 40 minutes ago telling me that there was a shooting and that she's really scared. So I was at work and, had to leave work early too, so it's kind of scary to just receive a text like that.
What's going through your mind right now?
It's blank, it's scary, it's like, I don't know, just want her, out and take her home.
When you got word that this was happening, I mean, is it shock? Is it surprise?
It's really shocked. It's really surprised. I mean, I went to Parkrose High School for 4 years graduated from there. And it's crazy how, from 2009 to here, like, it's just really shocking. I would have never thought, anything like this I would go through. I have so many stuff that has been going on in this world, and shootings on other different schools and stuff. And it's like, would never known how, that situation would feel and how other parents or, people would go through. And I'm going through that right now. Really shocking, really nervous. So I don't know. I mean, all I have to do is just wait here.
Your mom got word from the school. Tell me what happened, because obviously the shooter was nearby Parkrose High School, but the middle school is on lockdown as well.
Yeah. Well, my sister was the one that texted me. I was at work. It's lunchtime for the residents where I work, and I receive a text. And then my mom calls me 10 minutes later telling me that there was a shooting around the school. So I told her, I was like, okay, I'm going to get out. I'll go pick her up, because she couldn't get out since she's a supervisor at her job right now. So no one can take over. So I just had to, tell my boss that I had to leave for this situation. And I'm glad that they understand and let me leave, or else I would have just walked out.
And we do want to clarify, I mean, when, by mistake said shooter, it was just a person with a handgun, but everyone is okay, and that person is in custody. So how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel okay, but still, just knowing that there was a shooting, a shooter around, like anything could have happened to, it doesn't matter if there was no shooting or that it was just a shooter with a gun. It's just, shocked, it's scary that there's so much people or, just around with, guns around them, and especially around school like this. It's like, we're at work, we have our kids, in school, learning and stuff, and, getting calls like this, it's just crazy.
Well, thank you. We'll let you get back to it. Yeah, we'll let you get back to it. Again, this is the location where Portland police are telling parents to come to retrieve their kids. No kids have arrived yet, but this parking lot is definitely filling up. We've seen so many more parents come in, and sisters and siblings come in to pick up their students here today.
All right, Morgan, thank you. I know you'll continue to watch, Morgan, what is happening there in the parking lot, and certainly we await the very nice scene of parents finally be reuniting with their children. Do want to point out here, want to stress, this has been referred to as a school shooting or, that sort of thing, and we do want to clarify, we have not determined any shots were fired. In fact, no injuries is what Portland police are saying. And at last report, they had not determined if any shots were fired. But that clarification, very important, that we do not have any evidence at this point of
person
any
with
shots
a gun
fired. And we have heard indeed that there are no injuries at all. We did confirm that with AMR, the ambulance service that would have been called to the area to treat any injuries. So, that a very important point that parents do need to hear is that no injuries, no reports or no confirmation right now that any shots were fired at all there at Parkrose High School. And Chris, I know parents have been told to go to this location at 122nd and Sandy, but that doesn't stop them from showing up at the high school. They may not be aware they're supposed to go to the other area. And you've been talking to some folks who've actually come to the school because they're so concerned.
Yeah, if you're a parent, which I am, you know that being told to go to a location and wait is just not good enough in some situations. And that's why a lot of these people, we showed you down on 122nd there, a lot of the parents lining up on the corner, and a lot of them continue because they're getting word from their kids inside, text messages and phone calls with the latest information. So you're right, a lot of them are still here on the premises. We moved so we could give you a better perspective. You can see this is I believe the south side, or no, the east side of Parkrose here, and all the buses are lined up. this is where the kids are going to get on, and this line goes all the way down. I can see close to a dozen buses here. When kids do get out of school, when they are released out of lockdown, these are the buses that will take the kids down to that reunification area. So we are getting word as well that perhaps the lockdown could be coming to an end, and perhaps an evacuation now is going to get started. Sean and Sita are parents joining us now, and you guys have a daughter inside, right?
Yes.
She recently texted you that the latest information is they may be coming out of lockdown?
Yes, she said they're being evacuated now.
What was it like when you first got word from her inside?
That was the worst feeling ever in the world. I got a text from her saying that she thinks there's a shooter and that she loves me, and that was all I got. And luckily, my husband was coming down the road right then, and we came immediately down here and we continued to text with her.
It's true. I mean, it seems like the kids are dealing with it better than we are, you know, and they're all, you know, but it's a shame that they have to go to school being scared.
Yeah. And your daughter is a junior, right? A sophomore? I'm sorry, sophomore. Didn't she just give you word that perhaps this could be coming to an end?
Yeah.
As far as getting ready to come out of the school?
Yes, she said that they're evacuating now.
Yeah.
So it probably takes a while to get them all organized and out on these buses. So.
Sure, yeah.
But she said they weren't on lockdown.
Right.
At least maybe not in the school, probably still around the school though, but yeah.
Is it, I have to ask the question, you know about the reunification area over at Kmart, and yet you're here.
Yeah, because they're not on the bus yet, so I'm not going to walk down there till I see the buses start going.
That's what it is, isn't it? You just want to be here. I mean, it's that feeling of knowing she's inside and you're out here and they're in lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just want to see her.
Yeah.
Squeeze her.
What's that going to be like?
I'm probably going to cry. I called in sick to work today, so did he, because we just want to stay home with our kids tonight and hold them and, you know, be happy that they're here still.
Is it a relief that she ran into a closet and probably did what you guys have probably talked about?
Yes. I mean, I was glad that she was hiding and that she was safe, but, you know, and then I was just thinking about all her other friends in school, too, and calling other parents to let them know what was going on and, you know, but I'm glad nobody was hurt. And,
I know it's such a difficult time, so thanks so much for giving us your perspective. And once we see these buses start moving, maybe we'll go down to the Kmart, huh?
Right.
I certainly understand. Okay, that's the situation here on this side of the building. And again, the word that we're getting is this happened near the Fine Arts building. So as you look, it is on, just as the crow flies, the other side of the school is the Fine Arts building. And Kathy, I think you had mentioned that the tennis courts were mentioned as well. That area is near the Fine Arts building. So we believe this happened on the other side of the school near the Fine Arts building. And Devin, if you go to your left, you can see just folks are still, the traffic is out here. People are stopping and getting out of their cars, coming right to Shaver and 122nd. 122nd is tough to get into, and you already know this, and we've reported this, but you can't, getting onto Shaver, police have 5 and 6 roadblocks set up. They're not letting anybody in there, and you know how this drill goes is, unfortunately, we've seen it, not this close to home, you know, recently, but they go through the lockdown and they debrief, and they'll be interviewing kids that happen to see this, and then they will be released. And those are the buses that are going to take the kids over to the reunification area at Sandy. So as soon as that happens and these buses start moving, or if we see children coming out of there, we'll let you know. Back to you.
Yeah, Chris, you know, we talk about, you know, the parents and the concern, and you can certainly understand that. And so they go to where they think they're going to get the earliest look at their child being safe. And I was thinking about the timing of this. I mean, this was just before noontime. So you mentioned that happening, you believe, in the area of the Fine Arts building. But really around noontime, you got to figure kids are at lunch, and the potential for all the activity, all the students in the hallway there might have been, because we've already heard from a couple parents who say their students saw this person with a gun.
Do you want to come back to me right now so I can answer to a woman who was at lunch with her kid?
Yeah, Chris, so you were mentioning you talked with a woman who was at lunch with her student?
Yeah, I wasn't sure you could still hear me, Kathy. We were talking to one of the parents that was standing here, and again, we're just near the round table on 122nd, different perspective of the school on the other side. One mom we talked to said, and again, around noontime, she had driven up. Her car's still in there. She can't get to it. She was bringing her daughter lunch because her daughter had a game tonight. You know, like thousands and countless of parents do. They come by, bring lunch for the kids, and all of a sudden she gets this text from her daughter inside. I think there's a shooter inside. I think there's a suspect inside. I think there's an incident going on. And of course, then the panic sets in, and the mom and the daughter are going back and forth and actually calling and I remember her telling her daughter, get somewhere safe. And so, yeah, you talk about this happening at this time of the day. The mom that we talked to was right in front of the school, had just got out, getting ready to take lunch to her daughter because she had a game tonight. She's still standing here waiting for her daughter to be released from school now, how many hours later? So, yeah, the timing of the day is not to go unnoticed.
All right, Chris, thank you. We're about 15 minutes away from when Portland police say they are planning a briefing on what's happening there at Parkrose High School. Hopefully then we might get information on a timeline for when this reunification process will be carried out at the nearby parking lot. KGW's Kyle Aboshi there near the school. And Kyle, what can you bring us up to date on?
Kathy, obviously a heavy police presence as they closed off the surrounding area. You can see police cars here as well, but many parents as well, as you'd mentioned, hoping to grab a hold and hug their own children. Maisa Johnston is one of them. You've got a junior who's a son, a student here.
He is, yeah.
How did you first hear about all this?
I was at work, and you're not supposed to have your phone on, and I got a text from my mom saying that there was a shooting at Parkrose. There was a person that was found with a shotgun. So I was worried.
And you were running at that point, I suppose.
I was like, I gotta go. Yeah, very scary.
Have you been in contact with your son?
I have, by text. He said he's okay. They're not letting him go at this time, but soon he'll be able to come home.
Yeah.
They're letting him out.
Has he given you any indication of what's happening inside the school?
Not really. No, he doesn't have very good service, but he just said that he doesn't really know what's going on, but they're going to let the kids out shortly. Yeah.
You know, as a parent, we read the headlines, we see this on the news, unfortunately all too often. Now you're living through it.
I know. You never think it's going to happen to you. It's just way too close for comfort. It's very scary. It's ridiculous.
Obviously, you hope to hug your son. What do you hope to tell him?
I know. I'm just going to give him a big hug and tell him, I'm just glad you're safe. That's all I can do, I guess.
We are as well. Again, all students and staff appear to be safe at this point, and the investigation continues. Thank you for talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hopefully these parents can reunite. Down the street a little ways, if you can see, we've seen some police activity there. They've been some younger students as well surrounding the area. Obviously, they want to talk with anybody who might have information. And Kathy, I want to just give you the latest information. As you pointed out, we anticipate here at about 11:30, media briefing, but they put out a release about 12:30, providing some very basic specifics. 11:48 a.m. officers were called here to Parkrose High School regarding a man armed with a gun near the high school. Officers arrived and determined that a Parkrose High School staff member had wrestled the suspect to the ground. Again, this is according to Portland police. There's no indication that any other shooter or any injuries, and police have not yet determined if any rounds were fired. So again, that's the latest information as of about 45 minutes ago. We do anticipate hearing from police here shortly, about 15 minutes, to get a little bit better update on what exactly unfolded. But the really important point to emphasize at this point, there appear to be no injuries, and that really is good news, but certainly a frightening situation for many parents now as they wait to reunite with their children. Kathy?
And you mentioning the staff member wrestling, the person with the gun to the ground. And I'm sure as this story unfolds, we'll hear more about those heroic efforts. We've been watching from Sky 8 some images at the school. We saw officers walking the perimeter of the building, perhaps to give the all clear for students to come out. We're waiting for parents to be reunited at 122nd and Sandy with the students. They'll be brought by bus the short distance, and that's where KGW's Morgan Romero has been talking with parents as they hear from students still inside the school by phone call and text. Morgan?
Yeah, Kathy, and I was actually just showing a couple parents right now that press release that Kyle was referring to. Portland Police Bureau telling us there is no indication that there were any injuries. That suspect was wrestled to the ground, that individual with a handgun. They are not calling him a shooter. How does that make you feel?
Relieved, very relieved. Yeah.
You've got a junior in high school inside that school.
I do. I have a junior in high school. Her name's Brianna Waters. This is her bonus mom, Bernadette.
Yeah.
You okay?
Oh yeah, it's stressful. really stressful. Even, you know, the information's slow to come, so you don't know. Yeah, it's stressful.
You were showing me your text message exchange with your daughter. I don't even know how I would react if I were a parent. What is going through your head when your daughter sends you a text message saying, I love you?
Yeah, it's not weird. So, of course, we all know we love each other, but we don't text each other during the day. She's got school, I have to work, and so I was in
students. Morgan, thank you. We want to interrupt here real quick because we're getting some new information from Chris Willis at Parkrose High School about, you know, possibly the students being moved. Do I see some students getting on buses there, Chris?
Yeah, this is what parents have been waiting to see, and we can show it to you live. We came over to this side of the school because these are where the buses are lined up, and children are getting on the buses and are evacuating, heading to the reunification area down at the old Kmart to be reunited with their parents. Here, as you watch the children get onto the bus, and again, no injuries, and actually some of the parents here right to my right are just smiling and happy and clapping and relieved, as you can imagine. But what happened here is the police response to this, they went one by one to all of these buses and got drivers in them. So drivers are in every bus. Then methodically they went by and each bus fired up and started and got ready. And then the officer came by and one by one, each one opened their doors. And so we sat here with all the doors open, and now you can see the kids coming out and getting on the buses. One of the children inside had texted back and forth with a mom we were standing here talking to, and she had said they had been now taken out of their lockdown areas in their classrooms, and all of the children or all of the students were put into the foyer, the main foyer area, before they were now loaded on the buses. I think we're going to see that first one drive away here pretty soon. They'll probably do this as methodically as they boarded them on, but again, there are more than a dozen buses here ready to take the kids, the students out of here, and we just wanted the relief of, you know, countless parents are down here watching with the smiles and the relief, and you know, they saw the kids and get onto the buses here, showing great relief. So we just wanted to pass that along to you, that it looks like the lockdown could be over and the students are now hopping onto the buses.
Absolutely, Chris. The news that parents have been waiting to hear, and that will be relayed to them shortly, I'm sure, as they wait at that site at 122nd.
Here comes another round, Kathy.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, Kathy, but here comes another round. They're doing this. We mentioned how they were doing this kind of in stages. Here comes the second stage. They're all coming out of the main foyer area, and they're being escorted by police, and they are going on to the next bus. You can see them coming in between, and of course we want to be sensitive to the students and everything else, but we just wanted to show you them getting onto the buses. And you know, it's a drill that these students probably have talked about. It's a drill that these students probably have practiced, unfortunately. You know, in the world we live in, they are now going through this drill and walking out of the foyer and hopping onto their buses to be bused to a reunification area with their parents. Something, you know, none of us ever want to see, especially the students. But again, as we're standing here with the parents, huge relief, smiles. We heard from many of these moms and dads, I just can't wait to grab my child. I can't wait to hug them. I want this to be over. And it looks like we're a little bit closer to that now. And Devin, I don't know if we can see, these are heavily armed, and it's actually, you know, these officers are, I don't want to say riot gear, but they're in the hard hats and the vests and the camos, and they're leading these students out onto the bus. There goes the first one, as we mentioned. So bus number one, full of safe students, heading back to be with their parents. Something a lot of parents down here, through tears and anxiety and fear, have been waiting for, and now they see it. So now that one's gone, you can see this team of officers here they're going back into the foyer, and they're going to bring another, I assume they're going to bring another group of students out and hop onto the next bus, and they will continue to do that until all of these kids are out. But we can tell you the lockdown is over because kids are on buses and heading back to be with their parents.
Yeah, and we see in the left of your screen here that live picture of that first bus taking off from Parkrose High School, making its way to that big parking lot at 122nd. and Sandy and all the parents waiting there. And you have to assume, Chris, there will be a process once they get there that the students will have to be, in some sense, you know, checked out before. They had set up a command center there before they are officially reunited with their parents. Although parents would probably like to run up and be at the door of the bus as they get off. This has all been very systematic in terms of you mentioning, you know, the police presence there. They're in riot gear. I mean, a very serious situation and very scary for a kid, really.
You know, and Kathy, as you mentioned that, I want to add this because I think it's important as I've been watching this, is imagine these officers, and the response was swift, and they were out here, methodically put everybody in lockdown, including the middle school, and we even got word maybe, you know, maybe the elementary school had a brief lockdown as well, and they had to sweep the building. They had to go through every square foot of this building to make sure it was secure and the children were safe. They were all in, all the kids were in, you know, I say children and kids because I'm a parent. These are students. These are high school students, so forgive, you know, my use of descriptions. But these kids were held in rooms. Then they were transferred to the main foyer, a lot of them not knowing what's going on, fear and anxiety as you can imagine. But I'm watching some of these officers right now as they're coming out doing what we as parents would want them to do. And they're looking at the kids and they're giving them that, you know what, it's okay. We're getting on the bus. We're going to do this together. And, you know, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it, but I'm watching these officers right now. And you can imagine students seeing these officers in this riot gear holding guns. And, you know, they're going through what just happened on their campus and everything else. And they're coming out to get on buses to be taken, you know, who knows where, what they've been told. But these officers are doing it very the way we would want them to do it as parents. Well, they're reassuring to these kids. They're walking them out. They're walking out with them. They're going back in and saying, okay, next, let's go. We'll all go together. They're not coming out with their arms up like we've seen on that video so many times. And you know, it just seems like there's a real soothing sense of security and safety from the officers who are tasked with a very difficult job right now, one that, you know, none of us ever want to see or cover.
Reassurance from their parents. They'll get the reassurance from them when they're reunited there, and we're watching this bus move to that reunification area, and then they're going to need the reassurance in days ahead, you know, as they think about going back to school. And we know the school will roll out a plan to deal with the psychological impact of what students may have witnessed here, and just the scare of having to hide in a closet, and the scare of hearing that there is someone with a gun in the building. The impact of that will go on for days, weeks, months, even years ahead. I mean, their lives are really changed forever by this at Parkrose High School and at the nearby middle school. We are anticipating this bus arriving soon at the reunification area, where KGW's Morgan Romero has been speaking with parents. Morgan, they must be very anxious at this point.
Yeah, very anxious, Kathy, as you and Chris just talked about. The fact that a kid has to go through this, whether they're in middle school or they're in high school, and they have to be on lockdown inside their school building, not knowing what's going on the outside, just getting word that there's an individual with a gun near their school, it's traumatizing. And one parent I talked to, Marcy, she said, you know, the kids at this point might not know how this will impact them because it's so shocking and maybe the adrenaline is pumping and they just don't know all the information. But when this is said and done and they're able to wrap their heads around what's going on, it could have lasting impacts and it could have lasting trauma. But we do want to show you a picture of what's going on here now. There are hundreds of people here, parents, siblings, family members, waiting for students from Parkrose High School and middle school to be bused here. And that first bus is arriving. I don't know if our photographer Ken can show you what's going on the side of this Sears outlet, but there is a bus off in the distance, further away from this command center that Portland Police Bureau and other agencies have set up for people for that reunification and retrieval. We're just waiting for kids to come off this bus. Again, parents here getting word from their students through text message, haven't really been able to connect with them on the phone, and don't know a lot of information right now other than what's coming out of the media and Twitter. And so we'll wait to hear from them as soon as they are able to connect with their students. But obviously very, very emotional, anxious, and nervous, but relief. A lot of relief here today as we've been talking to parents, knowing that everyone is okay, Kathy.
Yes, Morgan, we see a second bus there showing up in this live picture, entering the large parking lot there, as you call it, the Sears outlet. And did you hear at all, Morgan, if there's a process that parents will have to go through before they can be reunited? I mean, do the students have to check in there at the command center? Any word on that yet?
We haven't been able to touch base with any officials here on scene to find out what the process is going to look like, but I have to say, props to them, because they got these tents and tables set up immediately. I mean, there were only maybe 50 parents here at the time that they got this command center ready, but you can see off in the distance those two buses there, each with, of course, dozens of students. And so there'll have to be some sort of formal system for parents to be able to connect with their students and identify who they are. There is someone talking to parents right now, though, so I might go listen in on that and find out what's going on.
Yes, that would be good, Morgan, and we can kind of review what's happened here. It's been about an hour and a half since this all started. The initial report from Portland Police saying someone with a gun was in the area of Parkrose High School. Within the half hour, we got a second report saying that a suspect is in custody and that there were no injuries. And then a few minutes later came the report that a Parkrose High School staff member had wrestled someone with a gun to the ground, averting any further trouble at the school. But then you have this long process of the lockdown being lifted and the police checking the perimeter of the school, and then police dressed in riot gear at the high school basically escorting students onto these buses and making a very short drive to be reunited with their parents. Now we're looking here in the live picture of this first bus that arrived. Students are coming off. There are some adults in the area, but we're not sure what the process is in terms of getting those students reunited with their parents. There are 12 buses total. 12 buses that will be transporting the students from Parkrose High School. The enrollment there in the neighborhood of 800 students that would have to be bused to this area. Now, of course, not all students were in class at the time, but we anticipate several hundred students will have to be bused from Parkrose High School to this parking lot at 122nd and Sandy. You're looking at this picture live from Sky 8 there of that parking lot. We saw the buses. Now we see some adults walking around, perhaps trying to figure out what the reunification process looks like. Now, of course, they would want to see their child, run right up to them. Not sure if that's the way it's going to work out. Probably not. They have to be much more methodical about this. They have those tents set up for some sort of check-in purposes to make sure that students are properly reunited with their parents who have shown up. As Morgan has been showing us out there, parents are getting texts and phone calls from students telling them how the whole process is going, telling them that they were taken into the foyer of the building and then escorted out by police in riot gear and put on these buses at the high school. And those buses are making their way there to that Reunification parking lot, which was a Sears outlet. Some have said it's a Kmart parking lot, but nonetheless, it's at 122nd and Sandy, not far from the school, but gives police a large enough area that they are able to get the students safely back with their parents. Kyle Aboshi has been near the school following what's happening there. And Kyle, I imagine parents are still showing up at the school hoping to get their students there.
Kathy, they are a few students, though, have been able to come off of school grounds and reunite with their parents. In this case, Jessica Diaz and her daughter. What can you tell us about being inside that school today?
It was definitely scary to think that me or my sister could have been hurt, but thankfully she called me when she did, because there were no announcements over the intercom or any emails. The only way I knew what was happening was because my sister called me, and what she told me to do was to go to the office and try and get out of this school. But when I went there, the hallways were dark, the office was dark, nobody was in there, and I ran into a security guard in the hallway, and he told me to go inside the classroom, and I was with a friend at a time, so we both went back in there. But while they were closing the blinds and turning out the lights and locking the doors, I left, which isn't what we're supposed to do, but my sister told me to run and to get out of there, so that's what I did. So I left, and I ran to the middle school, which is across the street, and then I ended up by 122nd, And then that's when I was able to call my mom and my sister again. And then my mom came and picked me up shortly after. So.
At the time, did you have any real clear understanding of what was occurring?
Yeah, all I know is that as soon as I answered the phone, she told me to run and get out of there because there's a school shooter in the school and to get out of there as fast as possible. So I just knew to just leave because I didn't want to get hurt and I didn't want her to get hurt. So.
And just for clarification, now we know no one was injured inside, which is good news and certainly relief for you and your sister.
Yeah, very good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in hindsight, I mean, this is obviously still kind of unfolding, but have you had any time to kind of reflect and deal with this whole situation?
Yeah, it's good to see my mom and my aunt. She came and my cousin, and I got to see my sister before she had to go back in and get her phone and know that she's okay. It's good to just see her face and know that she's okay because, like, he was in the classroom with her class, and we have second period together, so that could have been the very last time I ever seen her or talked to her, so it was very good to be able to see my family.
I noticed some embraces between family members here.
Yeah.
Can you describe that moment when you actually were able to...
It was very crazy. As soon as I got in the car, she hugged me and I hugged her, and it was just instant tears. And when I seen my cousin, it was the same exact thing, and my aunt. It's just glad. I was just so glad to be able to hug them again. And then when I seen my sister, it was like, you're okay, I'm okay.
And we're glad you're okay. And as a mother...
My heart, I'm still decompressing. I'm still really, like, shook. Thankful that my twins are fast thinkers and all they care about is making sure each other is okay. And we've talked about this because it's obviously been on the news, it's happened at other schools, and run for your life. And I just am thankful that they're smart and fast and they did what they did and they had communication devices, and and we're just going to start plugging their littlest sister on what to do if this happens because they have a 6-year-old sister.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Obviously, stories starting to emerge now, and we'll hear from additional stories as other students come out and are reunited with their parents. Back to you.
Yeah, Kyle, it really sheds a light on why police interview so many of the students because each account we hear has some differences. That student mentioning that he believes the person with the gun did make it into a classroom. But again, we're waiting to hear, officially what police have been able to determine through their interviews. We're expecting a briefing here soon. We see that line of buses. The students are being taken to the reunification area with parents, and KGW's Morgan Romero is watching what's happened there. Morgan?
Yeah, Kathy, so if you can see, there's a woman there with an announcer, and she's basically calling out kids' names and calling out parents' names. And so kids are getting off the bus in a formal process. They're being checked off. Volunteers in blue vests and other volunteers and staff members are making sure that they're there and that their names are on this list, and then they're escorting them over here to this tent, and this woman is calling out with a megaphone, again, parents' names and ensuring that kids are connected with their parents. When we've seen those connections, it has been so emotional, Kathy. I mean, tears streaming down students' faces, tears streaming down parents' faces, obviously relief that their students are here and they're okay, but I haven't seen a dry eye from a single student that's come off of this bus so far. I mean, they are just so shaken up, so distraught, imaginably not knowing what's going on and experience this, going through this lockdown. You can see the student right in front of our camera embracing right now. Parents here knowing that their kids are safe, just want to get them out of here. I mean, there are hundreds of people here, and I know that I can't even imagine what they're experiencing, what they're going through, and wanting to take them away from the situation and just talk to them for the first time today, likely, since they went to school. They haven't been able to actually hear their voice, talk to them on the phone because they were in lockdown. They've only been communicating via text message. So we'll try to talk to some of those parents and students. Obviously, again, emotions are high imaginably, but we'll try to hear from them on how they're feeling and what they plan to do next.
Morgan, thank you. You know, you think about the timing here. It's been a little over an hour and a half, about an hour and 40 minutes since this all started, and you think of those tense moments for parents as they wait. Now, we're told the media briefing is getting underway right now, so let's listen in there.
Onto the Parkrose High School campus with a gun. Staff members confronted the person with the gun, and the staff members wrestled him to the ground. Our officers were very close, including school resource officers. They responded as well and took the suspect into custody. As of right now, we do not have any reports of anyone injured. Our special emergency reaction team have finished clearing the school. They have not found anybody injured. We have one person in custody, the person who entered the campus with a gun. We do not have any other reports of anyone else that arrived on the campus with a gun. We're still trying to determine that. It'll be part of our investigation.
Where on campus was the
Around the tennis courts.
Were they also
Right.
put inside the fine arts building?
I do not know that.
Was it a student?
I do not know. Any other questions? The gun has been recovered. Not at this time.
Next steps, we know the school's being cleared, students are being reunited.
So the school is cleared. The reunification process is in effect. Parkrose School District is managing that. You can contact their Facebook page for more information. I guess it's pretty detailed on their process. And we'll have a follow-up investigation. The gun violence reduction team is going to be the lead on this case. And again, one person is in custody. I do not know for how long.
So you say weapons?
It was a firearm.
One firearm?
Correct.
Can you talk about the evacuation process? We heard some students were busted over.
I can't because that's a Parkrose School District. They manage that, and they wanted me to refer you to their Facebook page and where there's detailed information about that.
Did staff engage?
Did he say
Staff
this
did
happened
engage the
outside near the tennis courts?
I do not know.
Just
Sure.
about what you know about whether shots were fired.
Correct. We're still trying to determine that.
Did this happen outside near the tennis courts?
Correct.
Was the gun ever brought into the school?
I do not know.
Do you know what time you plan to do your next update?
It'll be sometime this afternoon or this evening.
And do you think anyone else is involved or any other suspects?
We are not.
Can you describe a suspect at all as a student?
We don't know. We're figuring that out. He's being interviewed by officers right now.
And again, just for clarification, is there any indication that the gun was fired?
We're still trying to determine that. All of those, yes. Multiple people were calling 911. Almost the entirety of North and East Precinct officers responded. Numerous extra resources, our behavioral health unit, our special emergency reaction team, our gun violence reduction team flooded this way on a call like this.
Can you tell us anything more about the staff member that tackled this suspect?
Just that he's a staff member. I don't have any specifics.
How did officers clear the building?
It's very methodical. It's used by our tactical teams. They provide training for this, and it's very methodical in what they do. Room by room, correct.
And again, for clarification, is this an adult suspect or juvenile?
Correct. We haven't released that yet. We're still trying to determine that.
And the staff member was uninjured?
That is correct.
He was what? Uninjured?
Correct.
Is the suspect believed to be a student or have any association with the school?
We're trying to figure that out.
Can you just walk us through in general? I know there's a lot you can't say, but generally speaking, when you get a call like this and you respond, walk us through what you do.
Right. We want to get there as soon as possible and find the threat and eliminate the threat, take the threat into custody. We want to stop the threat. That is our main goal.
And in this case, by the time you got here, he was already arrested.
It's my understanding that the staff members or staff member definitely in an altercation with the suspect, and he was placed into custody. I don't know exactly how that went about.
And where was the suspect transported to after taken into custody?
I do not know if he's been transported yet. Again, the gun violence reduction team is going to be the lead investigatory team for that, and it'll be up to them where he goes.
And when and if he's transported, where will he go?
It depends.
On?
Where they decide to take him.
What time did the
11:48 is what my understanding.
Do you know the staff member that tackled him? Did he just walk outside and see it, or was he responding to it?
I don't know. I don't know.
There's a lot of parents watching right now. What do you want them to know right now as they're trying to read?
No children were injured. It appears that Parkrose High School followed their protocols, and they're, from what I can gather, doing an excellent job at reunification, as stressful and as monotonous as this is.
I know this is not a big priority right now, but do you know when students can get their cars? I don't know if the whole campus is considered a crisis.
I do not.
Have you said whether the suspects are male?
I have not.
Do you know?
We're trying to figure out everything with the suspect. We will release some more information at this time.
You referred to him as he already.
Okay.
The staff member is key as well.
I believe so. I believe so.
I know there's a perimeter around the school campus, but is there an actual crime scene within that perimeter?
There is a crime scene within the perimeter,
Can
yes.
you describe that?
It's the campus. We want to make sure we cover all areas where the person with the gun might have walked from, into, if he has a car parked, what have you. I'm sorry?
The person who tackled somebody's suspected she was a football coach.
I don't know that. I do know it's a staff member.
Is the school still in process of being cleared out, or is everybody out? Or?
No, not everybody's not out. That process has started, though. Correct. Well, it depends on where you're looking, obviously. It's on the high school campus. Okay. Any other questions?
Video surveillance or anything along those lines?
At this point, we're going to message that out as well. Correct.
When do you anticipate a next update for us?
Sometime this afternoon.
And the middle school's in lockdown as well.
I have not heard that. So.
Is everyone in here, or is everyone out of the middle school?
I do not know. This school was not affected as far as the ongoing investigation. I don't know if it was placed on lock out as a precaution. I do not know.
Can you just talk to, I mean, what a relief for parents that whatever the intent might have been, nothing happened, nobody was injured.
Absolutely.
This is the best case scenario for you.
Best case scenario, absolutely. The staff member, from what all accounts, did an excellent job. Our officers arrived within minutes, went right in. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Can you tell us who you are and what your title is?
Sure. Sergeant Brad Yakots, YAKOTS, Public Information Officer. Thank you.
Are you going to do an update live, or are you?
No, it's going to be.
This is it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I got you. You're fine.
And to be fair, I did have.
We did get some new information from Sergeant Yakots of Portland Police from this media briefing, namely that this happened at about 11:48. Police responded within minutes. When they arrived, a staff member had already taken down this person with a gun. He said this happened near the tennis courts on the campus there at Parkrose High School. And then the tactical team came in to sort of lead this evacuation process. You're seeing the results of that right now here at this parking lot at 122nd and Sandy, where students from Parkrose High School, several hundred of them, are being bused and then reunited with their parents. But first, the name is called out after they check in, and then the reunification process continues right there. Now, we do want to update you that we've learned that Parkrose Middle School, which had gone into lockdown as a result of this person with the gun being in the area, we're told, according to Portland Police, that will continue on a regular schedule. In other words, the middle school students will not be bused to this reunification area, that their schedule will continue with release times as normal. Back to the media briefing, Sergeant Yakots saying the gun violence reduction team will be leading this investigation. They have set up what they described as a crime scene, though he did say they have not determined that any shots were fired at all. They have no evidence that any shots were fired, no one injured, but this person with the gun came on campus just before noontime today, and within a half hour, the threat was put down by an alert staff member who took the person down to the ground before police had even arrived. Nevertheless, a very scary scene for the students in the school at the time, who began calling each other and texting each other about how to get out of the school. Kyle Aboshi was listening in as we heard Sergeant Yawkins take a barrage of questions from reporters there. And Kyle, can you give us sort of a summation of any new information you heard out there?
Kathy, as far as new information, it's somewhat limited. Really, he kind of recapped what we already know. That's that this occurred about 11:48 this morning. A suspect was reported to have a gun of some type, although they won't disclose what type of gun that is. A staff member here at the high school tackled the suspect. Police were called and responded very quickly. At this point, there don't appear to be any injuries at Parkrose High School as a result of this incident, and the suspect is taken into custody. Now, who is this person? That's an obvious question we asked. Unfortunately, they weren't able to tell us. They weren't able to provide an age. We don't know if it's a juvenile. We don't know if it's an adult. We don't know where that person is going to be transported now that they are in custody. We don't know what kind of gun it is as well. We asked specifically about that. Additionally, we don't know if this incident occurred outside the school or inside the school. They were fairly vague on that, although we do anticipate some information later this afternoon. So again, as far as general terms of what we know, it's the same information that we've been reporting for some time. That 11:48 this morning, there was a report of an individual with a gun at the Parkrose High School campus. That individual was tackled by a staff member. We don't know who that staff member is at this point, and they wouldn't confirm. There were no injuries. That suspect is now taken into custody, and again, there was some type of gun, but we don't know what type. It's an ongoing investigation, and it's a big crime scene, frankly, covering the entire campus here at Parkrose High School, the surrounding area. Many rows are cordoned off and closed. The focus right now is on reuniting students with their parents and also interviewing anyone who may have information. But as far as public safety is concerned, it appears the community is safe and there were no injuries. Back to you.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Kyle mentioning that reunification area just a short ways from Parkrose High School, where the students are being bused. And we want to go to KGW's Morgan Romero, because Morgan, I know you've been watching these emotional reunions and just hearing from the kids about what may have happened inside for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of information flying about, but obviously we are reporting what Portland Police Bureau is telling us right now. And kids that were inside that school, I have them with me, and Mom Kenya right now. You guys, your embrace was really moving. You obviously are distraught. You said you were shaking coming here. What's going through your head now?
Well, now I'm glad that everybody's okay. I'm glad that they're safe and all the other kids are safe, and so I'm a little more calm now. But it was devastating to hear that, that somebody was at my daughter's school with the gun. So I'm feeling relief, but it's just still like unbelievable.
And I want to ask you, Chanel, you are a senior at Parkrose High School all 4 years. What did you hear, and when you guys went into lockdown, what was going through your mind?
I was just wondering, I didn't know if it was real, because usually our drills happen, but then I was like, she just said lockdown, we're on lockdown, and then the overhead audio stuff went off, and then we're like, well, is it real? I don't know what's going on. We were in the middle of a test, so I was like, okay. And we all just kind of went to the back of the room and sat down and we had to be quiet. So I just didn't know really what was going on yet. I was kind of confused, just a little bit.
Did you get any information while you were inside the classroom?
Yeah, we got a picture of who it was, and then I figured out he was in my classroom earlier in the year, and he was a real quiet kid. And then we heard of what might have happened, but we're not really sure if it really did happen, because stuff just floats around, so we didn't really know for a fact.
Who'd you get that picture from?
Well, my boyfriend has showed it to me, so I don't know who exactly it came from.
Were you able to talk to students after you were released and put on the bus? What is everyone saying?
Well, everyone is kind of just did this really just happen? We're all kind of still just a little shocked, but we had to talk quietly because the police that were in the school had to hear what was going on and be able to hear and tell people what to do. So not really much talking, but quietly talking if there was any.
And I'll ask you, how are you feeling now that you are reunited and you're out of the school and you're here safe?
Relieved, honestly. I just feel safer. Yeah. It just feels better to be out of the school and with family, I guess, yeah.
How long were you inside that classroom for?
an hour and like 30 minutes. Yeah, it was a long, just sitting on the floor in the dark, just waiting.
Phones blowing up from everybody trying to see if we're okay and everything. You know, we had to make sure the windows were shut down. We were in there we missed lunch and everything.
So now, now that you're out, what are you planning on doing?
I'm going home and I'm going to go eat because I'm hungry and I might take a nap.
Are you happy with the way that they were able to protect you guys, though?
Yeah, I am. Honestly, I can say that because everything happened so quickly. So it was like they knew what to do and it was a quick reaction. At least we weren't waiting and no one was confused on what to do. So I'm glad everything happened and turned out fine.
And we see several buses over there off in the distance, but you had heard that not everyone is out. I've seen you looking over and seeing some of your friends getting excited that some of them are arriving here, but as far as you know, not everyone is here yet.
No, there's probably still a lot of people in the school because when we left, there was still like a whole area of the school that wasn't cleared out yet.
Well, I'm so happy you guys are okay, and Mom, I know you're very relieved.
I am. I'm relieved. I'm going to probably speak for a lot of the parents that we're happy that our kids are safe and that this was not a worse situation since we hear so much about all these horrific school shootings now.
All right, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we'll send it back to you for now, Kathy.
All right, Morgan, thank you. We've been looking at this shot of Sky 8, of the school itself. You see several cars still in the parking lot there. People have been moving around and, many parents showing up at the school. We do hear from the school that it'll be some time before students are allowed back in to get any belongings they may have left behind. I mean, you think about the fact that, they were in class, away from lockers, and then they're escorted out. So many still have belongings in the school. We're heading into a weekend, so we don't have a timeline yet for when students might be able to go in the school and recover any personal items they had to leave behind. Now, that being the least of their worries at this point, I'm sure, because they're all just very relieved to be out of the school, many being reunited with their parents. Chris Willis continues to watch what's happening at the school, and I understand some of the traffic there starting to subside a bit. Chris?
Yeah, Kathy, the latest information, 2 points. Number one, Shaver's open. And let me get out of the way and show you. Homeland Security and Portland Police have now stopped their roadblocks, and people can drive here. If you're a pedestrian, they're asking that you stay on the left side across the area from Parkrose High School. Here's the other information. The middle school, which is right there, Devin, parents can now go pick up those kids. They weren't bused, but they were locked down. Say that again? Yes, this is the middle school. The middle school is across the street. So Portland police officers tell me now that it is open for parents to go pick up their kids. They haven't been able to because they were in lockdown, and as we watched the high school kids get bused to that reunification area, the kids in the middle school just remained on lockdown. So it is now lifted, and Portland police tell me Shaver is open, and you can go up here on 122nd, make your way into the middle school, and parents can now pick up their kids at middle school. So I'm sure there are a lot of parents of middle school students who haven't known, are they going to get bused, are they not, or when's the lockdown going to be lifted? It's lifted, and parents can now go to the middle school and pick up their kids. That's the latest here. And again, Shaver is open. The roadblocks are gone. The school is still closed. Investigation continues, so nobody's getting on the high school campus. But Shaver is open, and the middle school is open for parents to come pick up their kids.
Yeah, Chris, we're looking, before at the high school parking lot, there were still several cars in there. Or is it your impression that you can't get to your car and drive away from the high school at this point?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. There's still an active investigation. They have it taped off. You can't get onto the campus. And remember, there are a lot of staff members, too, were on those buses. They're not just busing the students back to the reunification. They're getting everybody off campus. So we watched a lot of staff members, teachers, counselors, administrators get on those buses with the kids. So they were taken to the area as well. Whether or not they're going to be allowed to come get their cars, faculty and staff, remains to be seen. But as of right now, they told us that nobody's going to get onto the campus at the high school.
And forgive me, Chris, if you've covered this already, but want to be aware, want parents to know, have all the buses left at this point? I mean, is it your impression that the school is cleared?
Yeah, not just the impression. We stood and watched every single one of them go. So yes, Everyone's gone. In fact, they had one TriMet bus as well at the end, just for overflow because they didn't know if they would have enough. So even the TriMet bus came out, headed down to the reunification area. So all the kids, we assume, all the students are off campus, have been put on those buses and reunited down at the Kmart area with their parents. But again, just not to reemphasize, but the students at the middle school have just been waiting in lockdown. So the latest word is that's now reopened and parents can go onto that campus and pick up their students.
Yeah, we're having a bit of confusion here, Chris, because Portland Police had earlier said that students in the middle school, their day would continue as normal and they'd be released on normal times. But you're hearing that more updated information out there on scene, and we're working to confirm that right here in terms of what happens at the middle school. We're talking about 700 students in that middle school, 800 to 900 students at Parkrose High School. So many families, so many students impacted by this. And I know you had met some parents who showed up at the high school there to be reunited with their students. And have you seen parents clearing that area?
Yeah, they're all gone. And again, that was just the anxiety of being a parent. They wanted to stand there and wait till their kids were on the bus. And then as soon as they saw the buses leave, they all headed down there. But, it was just kind of an instinctual thing. The parents wanted to stay at this location because they knew the kids were getting on the bus. And as soon as those buses headed out, all the parents did. In fact, there aren't any left here, and this whole block was packed with parents about a half an hour ago. As for the middle school, you may be right. These officers over my right shoulder here, I was just down talking to all of them, and he said the very latest information is that maybe it is that the campus is now open. They were preventing people from driving onto the middle school campus, but he said parents can now go onto the campus if their students are there.
All right, Chris, thank you. And we're looking at this picture here. Chris saying that the high school area has cleared out, and this is where most of those folks are heading, to this reunification area at 122nd and Sandy. Just to give you sort of a timeline of how this all started, we're now coming up on, well, it's been over 2 hours, because at 11:48, the reports came in to Portland Police that someone with a gun was in the area of Parkrose High School, and the police responded. By the time they arrived, the person with the gun had been taken down by what we're told is a Parkrose High School staff member. A Sergeant Yocketts with Portland Police just confirmed that a few minutes ago in the media briefing. At that time, police also said no reports of any injuries. They went through the school methodically, checking each classroom, evacuating students, eventually putting them on buses to be taken here to this reunification area. And we're told that the suspect is in custody. They only used the male pronoun of he when they referred to the person with the gun. Told that he had been interviewed by police, or was being interviewed by police. Police have also been interviewing several students who may have witnessed what happened. But again, very piecemeal information, still not a lot confirmed about who this person was that had a gun on campus or near the campus of Parkrose High School, was the original report. Police did say it happened in the area of the tennis courts on the campus there at Parkrose High School. All of this unfolding within the last 2 hours. The initial threat put down fairly quickly, within 30 minutes, but then there has been this long process of clearing the school, taking it out of lockdown, getting hundreds of students onto a dozen buses, and then making the drive here to this reunification area, where again there's a process for reuniting the student with the parent. Each child's name is called out, the parent stepped up, but only after the child is checked in. Again, high school students, but in this situation, a child is a child. These are people's children that they were so concerned about. So you can imagine, as a parent, getting that call or a text from a student you think is safely at school, and then having to respond so quickly, leaving your job, rushing to this area. Kyle Aboshi has been watching this all happen from the vantage point of Parkrose High School, talking with parents and students in the aftermath, Kyle, of what really ended up to be, a situation where no one was hurt, but the impact is so far-reaching.
Well, certainly, Kathy, frightening for any parent, not knowing about their child's well-being and hoping to reunite and now waiting and waiting and waiting. Luckily, now some of them have been able to reunite with their children. Again, the good news in all of this, no injuries reported. You know, a lot of people may be looking for answers right now and want this thing to be resolved. Behind me, you see a Portland police car, and you can see the area surrounding the school cordoned off. People asking, why don't we have more information about the suspect? Why don't we have more answers about the type of gun that was there, etc.? Keep in mind, these investigations take a great deal of time in that they want to interview everyone that they can. And just a moment ago, we talked to police and fired a number of questions at them asking for answers. And unfortunately, they weren't able to answer a lot of those questions, specifically how old is the suspect, maybe the name of the suspect, the type of gun used, etc. They really want to be thorough in interviewing everybody who was there to make sure that they have all the answers, also to make sure that indeed nobody was injured. At this point, it doesn't appear that anyone was injured. And then also where exactly this occurred. Police had suggested it happened outside the school at one point, and there may be some indication of inside the school, but again, very confusing, and we don't have a clear answer on where the situation unfolded. We do know, though, that a staff member tackled this individual to the ground, and then police quickly responded. So police really want to make sure that the information that they're providing to the general public is accurate, and that may be part of the reason that we're kind of seeing a bit of a delay in releasing this information. They want to make sure that indeed that it's accurate and true, and it doesn't jeopardize what they describe as an ongoing investigation. Indeed, they have one person in custody. They will likely try and interview that person, get a little bit more information about what occurred here. But it will take time. They anticipate releasing some more information later on this afternoon. The most important thing, though, for a lot of parents here is that their children are okay. There don't appear to be any injuries, and they have been able to reunite in many cases with their children.
Kyle, do you get a sense at all if the police presence there is dispersing? Are they keeping many officers on scene there? Chris Willis had indicated that, you know, the campus was clear of students, but it still looks like there's several police cars in that area.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one here, but we have seen a few officers leave. You know, in these type of incidents, it really is everybody who's in uniform races to the scene, especially in situations like this when, first of all, you don't know what's happening, and then once you do get here, you need to make sure that everyone is safe and protected. And see, that's exactly what happened in this situation. There still continues to be a lot of officers on the perimeter. There's a big operation in trying to reunite these kids safely to their parents. That's a big part of the operation. And then the investigation as well. I mean, if you think about a typical high school, it's got hundreds and hundreds of students. You want to reach out to each one of those, A, to make sure they're okay. Secondarily, ask them, what did you see, what did you hear, and what information can you tell us at all? That really is the opportunity to speak with them when it's fresh in their minds. They can tell you anything that they may have witnessed or heard at the time. So, you know, it really is critical that police have as many people on scene here as they can, especially during the initial stages of the response and investigation.
Well, yeah, you talked, Kyle, about the scope of what they have to piece together in terms of, did this person with the gun ever enter the building, or did this all happen outside the school? And, you know, there has been a lot of confusion in that respect because you've had a student say he made it into a classroom, but we have no police confirmation of that as of yet.
Right, and that's one thing that it's important that we caution the public as well. A lot of the information that is presented early on social media, with neighbors, parents, etc., is not always the most accurate information. And so that's why I think with all of these type of breaking news situations, particularly involving shootings, we need to err on the side of caution as far as the information that's being released. Police have been very clear at this point that it was an individual with a gun near the school, was wrestled by a staff member. No one was injured at this point. At least there's no information to suggest anyone was injured. They don't know at this point whether any shots were fired. That's part of the ongoing investigation. So we're trying to get the best information we can, and police are as well, as this situation unfolds.
Absolutely, and Kyle, thank you. And as mentioned previously, they did recover a firearm as part of the investigation when the suspect was taken into custody. We continue to watch on the screen here that reunification area at 122nd and Sandy, and we do have some information regarding the middle school. We had mentioned a few minutes ago that there was some confusion as to what the situation was there because it is just adjacent to the high school. and we're told by the Parkrose School District that the middle school is not releasing any students yet until police give it the all clear. It is still in lockout as a precaution. Earlier, Portland police had told us that the school day there would continue according to regular release times, but we're told that students are not being released to their parents at this point, and as difficult as it might be, parents are just going to have to be patient there. The middle school students, numbering about 700, the 6th through 8th graders, we're told still in a lockdown situation. KGW's Morgan Romero is on the ground here. We're looking at the shot from Sky 8, and it just seems, Morgan, that more and more parents are showing up there in that parking lot.
Yeah, more and more parents are showing up, but also a lot of them are leaving because they've been able to get their kids. And of course, they want to get their kids and they want to get out of here. They want to find out what's going on, how their kids are doing, comfort, console them. One of those students here right now, Devin, you are a freshman at Parkrose High School and you just got reunited with your parents. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty startled from all what's happening right now because we were in our intro to theater class, then all of a sudden a kid came in and said there's been a shooting, and then everyone was just thinking this isn't real. And then after everything, we all went into the makeup room. Our teacher locked everything down, and then after I think it was the principal or someone over the speakers said that the whole school's on lockdown, and then all of us, we all were told to hide under something, just hide in there. We all turned off all the lights, and then we all just sat in there and waited. We were told later that the school is still on lockdown, but the main building was free. The main building was safe.
You'd had drills before to experience what a lockdown would have been like, so did you know what to do?
Yes, I did. All of us seemed to do pretty well. We all managed to get to the makeup room and lock everything down pretty fast, and yeah, I'm just glad everyone's safe.
And of course, we haven't been able to confirm, and I'll just reiterate what Kyle was talking about, we haven't been able to confirm that shots were fired. We're still getting information, and no injuries reported at this time, so that must be relieving for you to hear.
Yeah, that is relieving to hear, yes, thank you.
What other information were you getting while you were inside that classroom?
Well, going back to the shots, I did hear that there was one shot fired, and I heard that I don't know the gender, they were out, I think out front of the building with a shotgun maybe. That's what I heard. There was other rumors that that it was an attempted suicide. Yeah, that's what I heard.
And a student?
I'm not sure. All I know is I think they said that the person had a black coat on.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're safe, and I'm glad that you were able to get back with your parents.
Yes,
thank you. Thank you. All right, Kathy, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Morgan, and we're getting some perspective here on that reunification area, or this is back at the high school. And just a look at the campus now that is now an active crime scene investigation. As we were told in a media briefing just a short time ago, they really have to encompass the whole campus in terms of doing this investigation. They have interviewed students who possibly encountered this person with a gun. They have a staff member that they will likely be interviewing as well, who is credited with taking down the gunman. That interview may have already taken place. And now you have this long process of reunifying the parents with the students that have been bused to this area at 102nd and Sandy. And, you know, they are just coming by the dozens there, and then they are leaving. But there is a process. The students have to be checked out. They have to go and give their name, and then their name is called out, and then the parent who is there to greet them is reunited with their student. But it is a slow process. There are upwards of 700 to 800 students there at Parkrose High School. Again, not all probably in attendance today, but you're dealing with hundreds of students to have reunited with their very concerned parents. And Chris Willis joins us again from Parkrose High School. And Chris, you know, not that many people still, you know, surrounding the high school there, but certainly those who are aware of what happened.
Yeah, I'm just walking back up on the south side of the sidewalk here on Shaver, just getting done talking to Homeland Security officers and Portland police that are standing there. The information they're telling us right now is they have about 100 students, roughly, that still need to be bused down to the reunification area. What happened was they had 12 school buses, and some of those buses, do I have a green here? I do. Some of those buses dropped the kids off and then didn't come back to the school. So they called TriMet. TriMet, one bus just left, and TriMet is circling back to get the last group of kids. They believe they're doing them in groups of 50 on a bus. So there are 2 more buses. Here comes one right now. And I believe if this guy takes a ride into the school, he's going to pick up one of the last 2 groups. So there are 2 groups of students, about 100 students left that need to come down to the reunification area, and they're going to do those on TriMet buses. Yeah, he's going in right now. And again, Shaver's open, so you can't get onto the school, but the buses can get down. Yeah, he's going to turn in. So they're getting down. The students are waiting in that little main holding area that we showed you earlier. Just about 100 of them, 2 more buses, they think, and then that will be it.
Well, Chris, you think about the coordination that must have taken to get those buses there. I was impressed that within an hour of this all happening, we saw those dozen school buses lined up outside of Parkrose High School, just waiting there to transport students. And then you also have these TriMet buses involved in this evacuation process as well. I mean, it seems as though everything has gone according to plan in terms of what they had set up in a situation like this. I mean, you mentioned the officers in their tactical gear and how reassuring they were to the students in this situation, coming from the school, putting them into the buses. But all this has done is so methodically.
Yeah, Kathy, we watched it. It was a matter of putting a driver on a bus, each one. We had 12 school buses and 1 TriMet bus. So each driver was put on the bus. Then the buses were started. Then the officers came by and said, okay, get your doors open one by one. And then they would bring the kids out, about 50 at a time, he said, onto the buses, and we watched each one of them leave. In fact, the last one was a TriMet bus, and I think 2 of the school buses were supposed to drop off, circle back, and pick up the last 2 groups. Here comes one right now, and there's one right in front of us as well. So they said there were about 100 students left, and they're getting them onto the TriMet bus.
All right, Chris, thank you for that from outside Parkrose High School. And we continue to look at Sky 8 here, this reunification area. They quickly set up these tents in the parking lot to get parents back together with their students. Many of them heard from students via text or phone call, or they heard from a friend or relative that this was all unfolding at Parkrose High School starting just before noon. Would have been lunchtime at the school, and the report came in to Portland police that someone with a gun was near campus or on campus. It's still unclear whether this person with a gun made it into a school, into a classroom, but what we have confirmed and heard from Portland police is that the person with a gun was taken down by a staff member at Parkrose High School. Averting what could have been just a horrible situation. And within 30 minutes of the initial reports, we here in the newsroom had word that a suspect was in custody and that no one was hurt. The school remained on lockdown as police very carefully went through the school classroom by classroom to see if anyone had been hurt by this person with a gun. And we're told to this point, no injuries from all of this that has happened. They can give very few details about whether the person with a gun made it into the classroom or even a school hallway. We're told that this all came to an end near the tennis courts on the campus of Parkrose High School. So then began this long process of waiting for parents. They had to wait for the students to be released from lockdown. That was about an hour and 15 minutes. Seemed endless to those students who were trapped inside. We had one student describe sitting on the classroom floor in the dark for over an hour, waiting for the all-clear signal, waiting to be put on those buses by officers dressed in tactical gear, very methodically but very reassuring at the same time that the threat was over. The street around Northeast Shaver, around Parkrose High School, has reopened, and a short distance away, KGW's Morgan Romero has been watching these reunions as students make their way off these 12 buses, and now TriMet buses have joined in the effort to transport these students safely to their parents. Morgan?
Wow. Yeah, we have seen some TriMet crews here too, and one of the last buses over there just arrived, and you can still see students are pouring out. As I mentioned earlier, more and more parents have come, but more and more parents and students have gone, which is good. They want to get their kids out of here, get them home safe. I'm joined now by a brother, and Noel, you came to pick up your brother Julius today.
Yeah, I came as soon as I heard from work. I was worried. So without devastation, I mean, without any, thought about it, I came right away. I came texting him. We have like a little group chat, where we communicate with each other. So I always kept him updated. I'm like, let me know what's going on. I'll be there right now. Obviously, I was worried, because you never know in these type of situations, no matter what circumstance it is, you don't know what could happen. They could say, yeah, everything's safe. A person's caught. I'm glad I'm hearing that, but I just want to make sure nothing gets worse or anything happens. I'm just really glad that, no one's injured, because everyone's worried, everyone's stressed, parents crying, makes me feel some type of way too, even though, appreciation over what we have, because things like this, you hear it in the news and then all of a sudden it happens here, I'm devastated too, but I'm just more glad that everyone's okay. I'm waiting on my brother right now, still a little bit worried. But yeah, I'm just glad, everything's all right with it.
So twin brothers that both go to Parkrose, and what grade are you in, Julia?
I'm a sophomore.
You're a sophomore, and you're still waiting for your brother. I see you guys anxiously looking out. What were you able to communicate with him during the day?
Yeah. We were chatting the whole time because we were talking about this thing. And then like the drill happened, so I was like, when I came back, I thought it was a drill. So like, I didn't really care, and Then when I was texting Max, he was like telling me if it's a drill or not. He's like, no, it's real. And then I was looking at reports and everything. I was like, oh. Then I was getting scared because he was right next to it. So I got all like stressed. I couldn't calm down. So
now being here with your brother and friends, out of that school, away from the situation, how are you feeling?
I mean, I feel blessed. No one got hurt. I feel blessed for everyone didn't get hurt. So more blessed that my brother didn't get hurt. So yeah.
And your brother, you said, was able to feed you some information. He was maybe closer to where things were going on?
He said that he heard screaming. Then he said that the man had ran across the class from him down the hallway. He ran out, and that's all he told me. But it was very scary.
Of course. And you were on lockdown for about an hour and a half inside that classroom. And what was going through your head in that meantime?
I mean, I'm like, okay, so I have to wait, I'm just scared that what if he comes back? Because I haven't heard any reports that he was caught yet. So I was scared, what if he comes back and hits anyone? So I got really scared. I was just really stressed. So, yeah.
I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. And I'm glad you were able to get off work and come here.
Yeah. In situations like that, as I said, you never know what could happen, We can all feel blessed, appreciation that, no one's injured, no one's hurt, no one died. That's the best, feeling anyone ever has. Of course, we're all anxiously waiting, Everyone here is anxiously waiting, It all just takes patience, but I'm just glad he's all right. I know my brother's all right. He's waiting for the bus. He's maybe the last one because, as I said, he was a witness to this. Who knows what he saw? As I said, he said many things that he saw. Cops interviewing him, someone running out, apparently someone with a shotgun. I don't fully know the story, but as I said, what matters more is that everyone's fine, nothing bad happened. I'd rather hear that, yeah, he was close to shooting someone, but the fact that, someone was able to, apparently because of Coach Lowe, Coach Lowe was able to stop that. So huge appreciation to Coach Lowe. I don't know him, but huge appreciation to him because he stopped something that could have been major, Who knows what could happen.
The football coach, right? We're hearing that from other students as well.
Yeah, apparently it was Coach Lowe that stopped the shooter. So as I said, huge thank you to him because he saved my brother and my other brother and many people's siblings, kids' lives. So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I know this is a hard day for you guys. Of course, everyone here feeling a major, overwhelming sense of relief here at this Sears outlet where parents and siblings and friends are picking up students from Parkrose High School. Back to you.
All right, Morgan, thank you. We just want to bring you the latest that we're hearing. You know, we've been talking for a couple hours here about this heroic effort on the Parkrose High School campus, a staff member being credited with taking down this person with a gun. We do want to let you know that we have confirmed through several sources that the person who did that is a fellow named Keenan Lowe. Now, the name may be very familiar to you. He was a standout football player at the University of Oregon. He is now the coach there at Parkrose High School. And we have confirmed, have we spoken with him?
To someone to a source who's spoken.
We've heard from a source who's spoken with Keenan Lowe, the football coach there at Parkrose High School, that he was indeed the person who encountered the person with the gun and took him down to the ground before police even arrived on scene. Again, Coach Keenan Lowe, the football coach at Parkrose High School, was the person who took down the person who came to campus with the gun. A student had mentioned that in the previous interview there. You heard Morgan Romero talking with the student who referred to Coach Lowe as the person who had put this to an end and took the person with the gun down to the ground. Keenan Lowe, images right there on the screen. He had played at the University of Oregon and then gone on to become a football coach, ending up there at Parkrose High School, and turned out to be in the right place at the right time today and take down this person who came to Parkrose High School with a gun. We have not confirmed if it was a student, if it was an adult. Police involved in the investigation wouldn't say that. But again, just hearing in the newsroom here that Keenan Lowe, the high school football coach there at Parkrose High School, the hero in terms of ending this threat, taking down the person with the gun. Chris Willis is there at the high school. And Chris, I know you've talked with students and parents. Are you still encountering any of them right now?
We are, just a little bit. Take a look at the live picture now, and parents going to give a lot of thanks to Coach Lowe, as you mentioned. What we have here is the remaining kids. There are about, Portland Police told us, 2 more groups waiting to get picked up and taken down to that reunification area. They're using TriMet buses, and there are a couple school buses behind there. And there you see some of the last kids getting onto the buses. Same officers greeting them, talking to them as they wait to get on the bus. You know, there was a lull of about 15, 20 minutes waiting for the buses to come back for these students. So, you know, extra tough for them to stand and wait for the ride down to be with their classmates and their parents and be reunified and you know, see their moms and dads, brothers and sisters. But that's the almost the last group. I believe there is one more after that. And again, these groups are in about 50. So we've watched them come out, and they're using the TriMet buses now. And those officers that are standing there escorting the kids onto the bus have been the same officers throughout the day. And Kathy, you mentioned just the way that they were with these students and trying to be as reassuring as they could in the chaos, and how methodical they were with transporting the kids off the campus to a safe spot where their parents could come and pick them up. But they have, it looks like that TriMet bus is now loaded and it's going to take off. The officers here will clear the drive, and here it comes. It's on its way. And so I believe there are probably one more group if they're using the smaller buses. They had some of the buses that couldn't hold as many kids, so the smaller buses were there. So they are picking them up and taking them down, and the kids have been waiting, the students have been waiting in that holding area right in the lobby there. We believe that's the entrance to the theater, and then the Fine Arts building, of course, on the other side. But officers doing an outstanding job getting the kids onto those buses and reassuring them at the same time of where they're going and that things are okay.
Yeah, Chris, I was thinking about you getting there. It's close to 2 hours ago now, and the difference in the scene that you see there now compared to when you first arrived. Can you give us a sense of how that's changed?
Boy, it was chaotic, and it was maddening. Parents on Shaver and 122nd standing here not knowing what to do, and you know, if you're a parent, you can imagine how difficult of a process that is. Many of them were crying, many of them were waiting for information. You know, that's the thing, is not getting the information. And many of them were getting texts from their students and their sons and daughters inside the school getting limited information. They hadn't yet known where they were going to be reunified. And then the buses start pulling off. They had the kids in a lockdown. They lifted the lockdown. One of the parents we were standing next to said, okay, my daughter just texted me that an evacuation is going on. We're going to be taken to the main lobby area and put on these buses. By then, the parents had, many by word of mouth and just parents talking to one another saying, okay, it's going to be down at the Kmart is where the buses are going to go. And then one by one, the kids started getting on the buses. It's interesting you mentioned that, Kathy, because a lot of the parents, they knew where they were supposed to go down at the Kmart when the buses would arrive, but they wouldn't leave the campus. They wanted to wait till they saw their students get on the buses, saw their sons and daughters get on the buses, and then as soon as the buses started pulling out, almost instantaneously, everybody was gone. Everybody was down there. They opened up Shaver again, and it just kind of went from really chaotic to just kind of a calm, methodical, here's where we need to go, here's what we need to do, and the buses started taking the kids to be reunified with their parents. And as you've seen from Morgan's coverage down there, a lot of relief by both parents and students down there.
Yeah, Chris, and those reunions still continuing at 122nd and Sandy. We do want to mention that we have just learned that the middle school lockout has now been lifted. That lockout lasting much longer than there at the high school. From what we understand and from what Portland police have said, the release at the middle school will happen on regular schedule. The threat there has, subsided and had a few hours ago when the lockout was lifted at the high school, but the middle school lockdown had continued. We are told now, though, that has lifted. A bit more about what we're learning about the football coach who took down this person with a gun that came onto the campus of Parkrose High School. We mentioned he is Coach Keenan Lowe, a standout player for the University of Oregon. There you see him in uniform. Now we're several years removed from that career, but going back even further, Keenan Lowe is a graduate of Jesuit High School, and I believe did some volunteer coaching out there before taking this job at Parkrose High School. And then today, he is being credited. We had a student mention, and we have confirmed through a source who spoke with Keenan that he indeed was the person who encountered someone with a gun at the high school and took that person to the ground even before police arrived on scene. The threat started at about 11:48, and it was ended, I think we got a tweet about 12:20, that a suspect was in custody and that Portland police had the school in lockdown and would begin this methodical process of putting students on buses and then reuniting them with parents. You see a bus still pulling into that lot there at 122nd and Sandy. More buses in a line up there. Kyle Aboshi has been at the school for us. And Kyle, have any of the students that you've spoken with mentioned Coach Lowe at all?
Kathy, a mother did early on in the situation here. Didn't have a specific name for us, and it was very early as things were kind of unfolding, so we were a little hesitant to report that without further confirmation, but now we've received that additional confirmation. I can tell you, as you noted, that suspect is now in custody. Police have a perimeter set up still around the campus here, so no one's able to really get close to the school itself, but many of these officers are now leaving. We've seen a number of them with tactical gear taking that off and now leaving the scene. We saw a number of them leaving that campus as well, where they did a clean sweep of the school to make sure that there was no additional threat to anyone else. Again, just to kind of reset and provide the latest information that we have, all this unfolded at about 11:48 this morning. Police responded to reports of a man with a gun near Parkrose High School. That's as it's described by Portland police. A staff member, now identified as football coach Keenan Lowe, wrestled that suspect to the ground. It does not appear that anyone was injured. That's the good news. Some questions remain, though, at this point. First of all, were any shots fired? We don't know. Where exactly did this occur? Outside the school, inside the school? Police have not provided confirmation on an exact location. We also don't know what type of weapon may have been recovered here. And finally, as far as the suspect or this individual taken into custody, we don't know much more beyond a description of it being a man. So we don't know the age of this individual, their background, or any relation to the school itself. We don't know if it was a student or what connection, again, if any, there was to the school. As far as the school goes right now, we do see some people leaving at this point, but we hoped to hear some additional information from police, but they had suggested it may be some time until maybe later this afternoon until they can provide some more details. Back to you.
Kyle, thank you. Looking at buses here, they have been so key in this reunification process, transporting students from Parkrose High School to 122nd and Sandy, where they set up a command center really within, the hour of this happening, knowing that they would be bringing students there to be reunited with their parents. And Morgan Romero is talking with a parent and a student right now. Morgan?
Yeah, we got a hold of Joanna because your hug with your daughter was really emotional. I know you held on to her for quite a while. What's going through your head right now?
I'm just very thankful that she's here and no one got hurt and that she's okay. Really blessed that she's safe. And still a little shaken up and, out of words. Don't really know what to say, just to hug her, and I'm glad nothing happened. Yeah.
You said she called you frantically earlier today.
Yes, actually I was at work when I received a phone call from her, and she was crying and couldn't calm down, and she's like, Mom, there's a lockdown, there's a shooter, a kid with a gun, and the teachers are here, and I'm okay, but she was still crying, and I was like, first thing, what can I do? Stay calm. I can't freak out, so she won't freak out. Just stay calm and get over there as fast as possible. Not knowing I can't do anything, just being there. Yeah.
How did you know where to go?
I didn't. I just followed the line of cars, and thank God the police officers were pretty organized and showed us where to go into and wait. And the communication with her, thank God she had her cell phone on her to communicate, Mom, we're here, Mom, this is happening, Mom, it's going to take this long. And yeah.
That's definitely the benefit nowadays, of children being able to have that form of communication to reach out to you guys and kind of give you a play-by-play. Were you instantly on your phone talking to your mom?
Yeah, I was talking to my friends too because I was so scared, and so I had no one to talk to but my friends and my mom.
Because you're inside that classroom just waiting to be told what to do.
Yeah, I was shocked. I couldn't see what I saw with my eyes. It's okay.
You said, you hear about this on the news, you see it happening in other places, but for it to happen here, that must be unbelievable.
Yeah, you never prepared for a situation like this. Like I said, you hear it and you're like, oh, it's not going to happen to my school or in my area, but today's like an eye-opener that, you got to be thankful for what you have and appreciate every day, and thank God that we had fast reaction from the school, from the police officers, and everybody was safe and nobody got hurt.
And again, we do want to mention the suspect in custody, and we are able to report that the football coach, if you know Coach Lowe, was able to tackle that person.
I saw it with my own eyes. I was amazed. He did a really good job. I'm thankful that he was there to do something.
What would you tell him right now if you could say anything?
Thank you for what you did. I am really grateful. That's it.
Describe it?
Yeah. Can you describe what happened?
Basically what I saw was the person who had a gun, and I saw the coach of the football team was trying to stop him, and I was super freaked out, and my teacher, Miss Starr, she freaked out too, and so she ran out to help him, and the whole class knew what to do, so we just went to the corner of the classroom, just stayed there, and we told each other, it's okay, let's calm down.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad all of your your peers are okay, and I know you guys want to get out of here and probably spend some quality time together, so thank you. Thank you. Of course, major sense of relief here in the parking lot as students and parents are reuniting, and we'll continue to try to touch base. A lot of kids are still off in the distance. You can see there's still a line of buses here, that last batch of kids that Chris was talking about. But of course, as more and more students are coming in and reuniting with their parents, more and more students and parents are leaving, and so that's good that parents and siblings and friends are able to be here to retrieve these kids and comfort them. Kathy?
All right, Morgan, thank you. Yeah, those, the 700 to 800 Parkrose High School students involved in all this, which started just before noon today, but also right across the street, Parkrose Middle School involved as well. Some 700, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders there. They have been still in their school building, and we just, again, want to remind parents that we're being told that the district says Parkrose Middle School students will be released on a regular schedule. We do know that parents have been trying to get to the middle school, but it had been on lockdown, and now we're saying that those parents of those students need to be aware that they will be released on their regular schedule. Chris Willis continues to watch things there at Parkrose High School, and Chris, you had mentioned 100 or so students still on campus. We saw those buses leave. Is it your, feeling that most of the students have left now?
It is, and if you were watching, we had the TriMet buses. The last two TriMet buses that went by were empty. So they were in line. There were about 6 or 7 of them in line just waiting to see if more kids were needed to be transported down there. And the last 2 or 3 buses that went by were empty. Let's give you a look and see. That's where the main area was, the loading area right there on campus. And you can see all buses are gone. Obviously, a lot of law enforcement still here. Investigation continues. And it is in several areas of the campus as well. The investigation obviously going in here, and people that were involved, we believed, were interviewed, and police got the very latest details from them. But over on the, I guess it would be the south side of the campus, over by where the tennis courts are, and the Fine Arts building, they call it the Fab, there is still a heavy police presence with their lights on. Although Shaver is open, which is the street right in front of the school, there are still lights flashing down in that other area as an investigation goes on down there. We believe that's where the incident occurred. But as we heard from Morgan, buses still arriving. We believe that's the last of them. And, they're going to use those buses. Those are district buses. So once the middle school gets out, as you were reporting on its regular schedule, I believe some of those buses will be used as well. So we believe that is the last of the students. There were 2 other groups that had to be bussed out. They brought over too many buses just in case there were any backups that needed to be transported as well. We saw the kids get on those smaller buses, and then the 3 TriMets were empty, but still went to the location. So that's the latest from here. Still a very active investigation. Shaver, which is the street that runs right in front from 122nd, is open, but still a heavy police presence. 1, 2, 3, at least 4 cars right in front of me. From 4 law enforcement cars. But they've stopped the roadblock, and it is open. And again, an active investigation still going on the other side of campus over by the tennis courts, lights flashing, and that's where the Fine Arts building and the tennis courts are located. But it appears, for now, to answer your question, Kathy, the students have all been transported.
Yeah, Chris, and as we listen to some of the interviews with students, and I know you've spoken with some and their parents, you can't help but note how quickly word spread about this. I mean, that is a large campus. You mentioned that Fine Arts building, a building in and of itself, and then you have the other buildings, but word seemed to spread so quickly, probably through text and phone call, that there was a person with a gun on campus. I mean, many of the students we've talked to seem to have, some word of that.
Yeah, and when we just arrived on the scene hours ago, and we're one of the first ones here, it was the same kind of thing. A lot of parents were texting with their students and their kids inside the building, and so that information just kind of spread that way as well, with a lot of information coming. A lot of it misinformation, as Kyle had mentioned too, because word spread so quickly. So it was good to get at least some word from the police department on some of the details on this. But yeah, information was spreading, and incidentally enough, one of the mothers that we had talked to originally, who was going to wait on this campus until she saw those buses leave, we just saw her walk by with her daughter, and they were hand in hand the whole way.
Oh, nice, nice. And now we head into the weekend, and thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
And really a couple days to recover, and we're kind of waiting for word from Parkrose School District. Of course, they've been inundated with calls and you know, waiting for word on the plan moving forward. You know, do you return to school on Monday? When you return, what is your plan for dealing with the trauma that these students have experienced? We're looking at a Sky 8 here of this reunification area. You still see how many parents are waiting for that reunion with a son or daughter that was in the school for, the students were in there for probably close to 90 minutes once the initial reports went out. You know, we had the students describing sitting on the floor of the dark classrooms. Others said they hid in a closet. Others were in the theater makeup room, you know, waiting for word from police or, you know, one of the administrators at the school to give the all clear signal. They waited for several minutes. And so, again, Parkrose School District, you know, will certainly have to put a plan in place moving forward with how to deal with the aftermath that comes. I mean, sure, we're witnessing these wonderful reunions that parents seem to have been waiting for, you know, way too long. Seems like several hours, but been about, well, almost 3 hours since this all began to unfold. Morgan Romero continues to watch what's happening there at 122nd and Sandy and meet with these parents and students. Morgan?
Yeah, Kathy, those last few buses just got here and students are pouring out, but I will say this parking lot has really emptied out. There's been some amazing embraces between family, parents, and their students. Just so relieved. I watched you guys hug. You were talking to your daughter, Alexis, throughout the day. You're a junior at Parkrose. When you were talking to her, what was going through your mind?
Well, I guess I've been talking to her pretty much all day via text, and I thought she was just joking with me about lunch or something. But I like tell her friends started calling me saying, you know, you need to get a hold of your daughter. Then I was like, oh, okay. So then I got a hold of her, and then I found out, and I just started freaking out, crying, and trying to figure out how to get a hold of her, plus reach all my family. And then apparently they were all watching the news. And they started contacting me, and my nerves were shot. And I live really close, so it was easy to come down here. And I just been relaying texts back and forth, and trying to tell her, you know, stay calm, stay quiet, be quiet. You don't know what's going on, just be quiet. Then she told me they were all in the gym, and then they got moved to separate rooms so they could bus them over here. And I was just like, which bus are you on? What bus are you on? I just was like, come on, come on, come on. And it was a delay, and then finally she's like, Mom, I'm actually moving. So I was excited to see that she was moving. I saw several people that have got their kids already, people we know, people we don't. A lot of talking, a lot of speculations, just a lot of everything. I'm just glad she's off the bus finally. Now her job wants her to come to work.
When you have your arm around your daughter right now, I'm sure you don't even want to let her go, but when you looked at her for the first time as she got off that bus, were you just so relieved?
Oh, of course. I saw a lot of kids, but I wasn't sure if I saw her at first. And then a friend of mine who works for the district, she's like, oh, hey, Alexis, your mom's right there. I said, where? And then I saw her, and I was like, oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Yay. And then she got to come under and hug me. So,
have you been talking to other parents here?
I don't like to have all the, you know, he said, she said stuff. I've heard a lot just standing around outside, but
but parents are happy, like obviously, you know, waiting for their kids, some just now reuniting, so you're pretty lucky.
Lots of talking, lots of gossip, but like I said, you know, gossip is gossip, but the facts are, as long as she's out, I'm fine.
I'm sure, you know, being able to talk to her throughout the day was a little reassuring for you.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. What are you guys going to do? Just go home and hug?
We'll probably go home, and her brother's going to be there. Her dad went to get him, so they're going to probably like squeeze her or annoy her or something.
Well, I'm glad you guys are okay, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, as I said, this whole area clearing out. And I want to say this command center, this reunification area, was set up so quickly. Not long after we got to this parking lot, Portland Police Bureau and the school district were able to set this up, get things moving. There's a formal process. So when kids are getting off the bus, staff members are checking them off of a list and ensuring that the right people are here to get them. And if their parents parents aren't here. I don't know whether they're able to go with a family member or friend or not. I'll confirm that, but in the meantime, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Morgan, thank you. You know, the mom and daughter mentioning there that still so many questions, you know, speculation about what just happened, and you know, the police investigation, very preliminary at this point. The gun violence reduction team handling the investigation. The Parkrose High School campus, now a crime scene. They do tell us, though, they have not confirmed any shots fired at all. They did, you know, confiscate a firearm already in their investigation, a suspect in custody, but questions, so many of them, about who the suspect is. Who was this person who came to the Parkrose High School campus with a gun? KGW's Kyle Aboshi has been looking into that for us. Kyle?
Kathy, just a few minutes ago, I spoke with a student who described herself as the ex-girlfriend of the suspect. She was standing with her parents as we spoke off camera. She says the suspect is an 18-year-old. He's a senior here at Parkrose High School who's had some troubles in the past, as she described it. She said she received a text message from him this morning saying that he'd be a little late for school. About 40 minutes later, he appeared at school. According to this student, again, who describes herself as the ex-girlfriend of this 18-year-old suspect, he entered her economics class with what appeared to be a rifle. She doesn't recall if anything was said. She doesn't recall whether he pointed it at anyone or how it was facing, but as she described, a lot of the students ran out of the classroom at that point, and she didn't see or hear from him again. At this point, police have confirmed that a suspect is in custody, although they have not identified this individual. This student, again, who describes herself as the ex-girlfriend of the suspect, says that he lives nearby, and as she describes it, he's had some trouble in the past, was a senior. Couldn't provide a lot of additional details, or didn't, I should say. We wanted to learn a little bit more about his family, and her father shared some details about it being a bit of a troubled household, but we need to confirm that as well. But some interesting insight that we had not heard before about this individual who was seen at the school with a gun, again described by his ex-girlfriend as an 18-year-old senior here at Parkrose High School.
All right, Kyle, thank you. Again, you know, Kyle mentioning that information needing to be confirmed by police in a media briefing and at about 1:30 this afternoon. They would only say he in terms of referring to the suspect. What we have confirmed with police is that the situation was put down by a very heroic member of the Parkrose High School staff. And we have since learned that the member of the staff is the high school football coach, Coach Keenan Lowe, who is a 2010 graduate from Jesuit High School, also from the University of Oregon, was a wide receiver there, had a stellar career there with the Ducks, and has gone on to become the football coach at Parkrose High School, and today is being credited by students with taking down this person with a gun. Joe Ranieri, I know you have some information along those lines regarding what Coach Lowe did at the school today.
Exactly right, and what you just described, Kathy, is what I've been hearing a lot from some parents as well as some students, some who actually witnessed this happening just a couple of hours ago. Now, one student I spoke to just a short time ago was in a classroom and didn't see Coach tackle him, but he did see him moments after holding down the suspect's head, and also with one hand and with his other hand holding down what the student described to me as what they thought was a rifle. And moments later, they said they were all escorted inside the school and stayed there, and by listening to messages from the intercom system telling them about what was taking place. And they told me it was very nerve-wracking, obviously, and it felt like hours, but it was only about 15-20 minutes before police started to arrive, and we're going to work and turn that interview. But again, he told me it was very emotional with all the students and just kind of going through that, and that's what we've been hearing a lot, obviously, from students who have been getting shuttled from the high school just up the street out here to the Sears parking lot along 122nd and Sandy. Back to you.
Yeah, Joe, give us a sense of, you know, whether that's really dissipating in terms of number of, you know, students being reunited with parents. We know from Chris Willis that all the students have left the school. Have most of them now been reunited with parents?
It appears that when we first got here, there was hardly any parking spaces available. Now you kind of look around. There are, from my account, maybe a half a dozen TriMet buses, as well as some school district buses that have been shuttling students back and forth from Parkrose High School out here to be reunited. And I had a chance to talk with some parents who were reunited with their kids, and they all were just thankful that this ended the way it did. Nobody was obviously seriously hurt, but a lot of emotions going here. But as you can see behind me, a lot of the parents have already picked up their students and have gone home for the day.
You know, Joe, you think about, you know, the scene there, and what I've witnessed from back here in the studio is that the parents have been very respectful of the process. I mean, there is, you know, this tendency to want to run and just swoop your child up right away and leave, but they had this process by where they were announcing names, and the parents had to show some extra patience there, but it seems very calm.
They did, and they did. It has been very calm considering what their children were going through the last couple of hours, but very calm. And the school district and the Portland police had a process. They were talking over a megaphone and naming the names of the kids who were getting off the bus, and that's how the parents, from what I could tell, were getting reunited. And there was a line of parents patiently waiting, a lot of tears in their eyes and a lot of hugs that we saw, but it took a couple of hours. I'm sure as a parent it felt more like days to be reunited with their kids, but as you can see behind me, a lot of what looked like chaos just an hour, maybe 2 hours ago, has kind of tapered off a little bit.
Yeah, and I know the question has gone out when Morgan Romero was talking with parents and students about what are you going to do first, and you know, I mean, when you think about it, this happened at lunchtime, and some of the students were saying, well, we never got our lunch, so you know, priorities for teenagers. They might be headed out to enjoy a meal before they get down to the business of really talking about what happened, you know. That would seem to be
and that's going to be a conversation that
yeah, go ahead,
that's
Joe.
going to be a conversation, obviously, parents, and that's going to be a conversation that parents and kids have over the next couple of days. And I did see what appeared to be a staff member went across the street to a fast food restaurant to bring some food out here for these kids who probably haven't eaten anything all morning and most of the day. So a lot of people have been kind of making sure that the kids are taken care of as they come out here and be reunited with their parents.
All right, Joe, thank you. We want to take the view from Sky 8 right now. As you see the situation, you know, changing dramatically in terms of numbers of people kind of milling around, you know, trying to make their way out of what's been just probably one of the most stressful days they've ever had in their life. All starting just before noon today, when we got reports here in the newsroom of someone spotted with a gun near the campus or on the campus of Parkrose High School. It was all very unclear at that point, and still so many questions about where this person with a gun was taken down and what classrooms or classroom he made it into. Police saying very little about that when they had a briefing a while back, saying mostly that the gun violence reduction team was working this investigation, that the entire Parkrose campus is now a crime scene. You see still a strong police presence there in this shot from Sky 8 as they, you know, start this investigation into exactly what territory this person with the gun covered when they were on campus. And we were told in the media briefing that it all ended near the tennis courts. The Fine Arts building also mentioned. But what the police have confirmed is that this person with a gun was taken down by a staff member of Parkrose High School, and we've heard several students say his name. Coach Keenan Lowe, who played for the University of Oregon Ducks probably 8-9 years ago, graduated from Jesuit High School back in 2010 and has gone on to become a football coach there at Parkrose High School. And we had the account from Joe saying a student witnessed just moments after this person with a gun had been taken down, Coach Lowe holding him down by his head and holding a gun in the other hand. So again, more to come on this aspect of the story, but Coach Lowe being credited with taking this person down even before police had arrived there on campus. The threat started about 11:50, and police arrived there within minutes, and about 12:20 we had word from Portland police that a suspect was in custody and that nobody had been injured. Let's go back to Morgan Romero now at 122nd and Sandy in that huge parking lot where so many parents showed up and so many reunions have happened. Morgan?
Yeah, hundreds, Kathy. It's an entirely different scene from what it was 20 minutes ago, an hour ago. Tons of parents and students have already reunited, and you can see that line, empty line over there is where all the buses were. Those buses are now gone because every student is off the bus, and most of them, of course, reunited with their parents. I'm joined now by one of those students and one of her mamas, and you were in the school, of course, on lockdown. What happened? What did you see?
Well, we were all just in class, and then suddenly the phone rang. We had a sub, and it was our school counselor calling. I'm guessing she had gotten a tip about what was about to happen, and our sub didn't pick up the phone. Then a security officer had walked in and asked for the student who was not there and who had the gun, and all of a sudden I just remember he had came in and he was standing right behind me, and all of a sudden he was trying to cock his gun, and then the security guard had tried to fight him, and we all just ran out of the classroom because, I mean, we had saw the gun and our substitute teacher was telling us to run, and I mean, when you're in a situation like that, the adrenaline just kind of kicks in, and so I ran out of that classroom and into the main building. And I ran into our teacher's room, and then that's when they had announced that we were going on lockdown. And so, yeah.
What? Are you okay? I mean, that's unbelievable.
I mean, he was behind me, so I didn't necessarily see what was going on until I had turned around. And then I kind of just freaked out, and I was just running, and I had fell, and I scraped my knee, and then I had to get back up and just keep running, so.
You are so strong and so calm right now, but I'm sure in the moment
it was terrifying. I wasn't sure what he was trying to do. I just wanted to get out of the classroom.
How many kids were in that classroom with you?
There's only about 15 of us. It's a small class, yeah. And it's all seniors, and he's in that class too, so.
Did you know what to do and where to go once you left?
No, I knew the school would find out what was happening, so I just ran to a classroom like they tell you to. Run to a classroom and, yeah, be on lockdown.
So glad you're okay.
Yeah, I'm glad too, especially being so close to him.
And I want to turn now to Mom, because you've been hanging out waiting to see what other students and parents are here, but you must feel just this overwhelming sense of relief right now.
Yes, definitely. I definitely feel so relieved, and I'm just so happy that Parkrose staff was able to handle this situation, follow the right protocols, and get everything taken care of, because I couldn't just imagine, but I just feel so relieved right now knowing that everyone's safe, and especially my daughter is safe.
You look behind us and they're breaking down this command center. Everyone's been reunited.
Yes, I hope so. I believe so, yes. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm so glad you guys are okay, and I hope you are able to rest the rest of the day. Thank you. Again, as you just saw and as I just mentioned, that command center right there being broken down. Only a few people left. Just moments ago, in fact, there were hundreds. So really good sign that everything is fizzling out and everyone's okay. Kathy, back to you.
All right, Morgan, thank you. Before we sign off for our coverage, prior to our 4 o'clock news coverage starting up again, we just rehash what has happened here. This all started about 3 hours ago when a person with a gun was spotted on the campus of Parkrose High School. The high school and the middle school went into lockdown. That is up to maybe 1,500 to 1,600 students impacted by this, terrified by this situation. We've heard from students who said they saw this person with a gun, and then the heroics of Coach Lowe, the football coach, taking down the person with a gun. The police moving in, securing the building, determining that everyone was safe. They're determining if shots were fired as this investigation continued. Suspect in custody. Much more coming up at 4.
Welcome to Portland's true luxury car buying experience.
In the center of it all,